Mated to the ruthless alpha. Moonlight wove pale ribbons across the mirrored surface of the lake, its hush disturbed only by the occasional rustle of night birds in the trees. Isolde Ravencrest knelt at the moss-soft bank, trailing her fingers through the cool water while Freya stood guard beside her, arms folded and red hair shining like a live coal among the shadows. "You hardly slept again," Freya murmured. "Your eyes give you away." "I dreamed of blood on white snow," Isolde admitted, voice low, "and of a howl that wasn't ours." She shivered despite the summer air. "Astra says something dark is coming." Freya huffed. "Wolves have barked at our borders for weeks. Your father will hold them back." Isolde gazed across the water where moon and cloud danced together. She wanted to believe. Yet in her mind Astra paced, silver fur bristling. "They will test the gates tonight," Astra warned, her voice a melodic echo beneath Isolde's thoughts. "Be ready, little moon." "I feel her unease," Isolde whispered. "It thrums beneath my skin like a drum." Freya crouched to gather flat stones. "Then take comfort. You are not alone in this. You have me. You have your pack. And you have—" A crack split the quiet, wood splintering under weight. Both women shot to their feet. Across the lake, distant treetops rippled as though some vast creature stalked beneath them. "Mind link the patrol," Freya said. Isolde pressed 2 fingers to her temple, opening the bond that lived in every silver-blood wolf. Images flashed, scouts at the eastern ridge, sentries along the palisade. All clear, each mind reported. Yet beyond them pulsed another presence, cold and deliberate, as though a storm had sprouted cruel intelligence. "Father," she shouted along the link, "something moves by the lake." Lucius Ravencrest answered at once, voice taut. "Return to the stronghold. Do not linger." Freya set off at a sprint, but Isolde hesitated, scanning the tree line. The silence felt wrong, too complete, holding its breath. And then the forest burst open. Wolves the color of night poured into the moonlit clearing, eyes like shards of frozen lightning. They moved as one body, ranks of dark fur and steel blades flashing. At their head loomed a man so tall the ground itself seemed to yield beneath each footfall. Long black hair whipped around a face carved of power. Silver-gray eyes burned with ruthless purpose. Astra flung herself forward inside Isolde's mind, hackles up. The Shadowfang Alpha. Theron Blackwell raised one hand. The charging line halted with terrifying precision, then split to encircle the lake, penning Isolde and Freya in a noose of warriors. His gaze settled on Isolde, steady, assessing, and something ancient thrummed like a struck bell behind his stern expression. "Mate," Karis growled inside him. The word, a thunderclap. "She is ours." Theron's jaw tightened. Not now. Freya drew her dagger and stepped in front of Isolde. "Run," she hissed. "No," Isolde breathed, heart hammering. "We stand together." From the woods behind, silver-blood sentries spilled into view, Lucius at their front. Silver hair gleamed under the moon as he bared his teeth. "Blackwell, turn back or answer with your blood." Theron's laugh was quiet, deadly. "You kept your borders closed, Ravencrest. I opened them for you." The moment shattered. Steel clanged as wolves leapt to meet wolves. Mind links erupted. Orders, cries, flashes of fur. Isolde felt the pain of a brother's broken rib, the fear of a healer cornered at the river mouth. She seized Freya's wrist and dashed for higher ground, but Rowan, slim and quick, intercepted them. His blade kissed Freya's throat. "Easy now," he mocked. "Our alpha wishes his prize unharmed." Isolde bared her teeth, sapphire eyes blazing. "Release her." Rowan only smiled, eyes bright with anticipation. Across the field, Lucius and Theron collided, silver against black. Lucius held his own for 3 vicious exchanges, but Theron's strength dwarfed his. A sweeping strike disarmed the older alpha. A second blow drove him to one knee. Before Theron could finish the fight, Elias appeared at his side, murmuring through their private link. The girl is slipping away. Theron followed Elias's nod. Isolde stood defiantly as Rowan marched Freya forward. The magnetic pull between them roared, a tide impossible to ignore. Rage flared in Theron's chest at seeing Rowan's knife so near the redhead's skin, though he scarcely understood why. He strode over each step a statement. "Rowan, enough," he ordered. Rowan hesitated but lowered the blade. Freya sagged, gasping. Isolde threw her arms around her friend, eyes wet with relief, and locked once more with Theron's. The air crackled. It was recognition so potent it stole breath. The ancient call of one soul to its other half. Yet the battlefield screamed around them, reminding both that destiny had chosen enemies. Karis pressed forward inside Theron. "Take her now. Bind her. She is ours by right of war and by the moon." Across the link, Astra's voice shivered through Isolde. "Do not yield, little moon. He may claim your body, but only you command your spirit." Rowan's smirk returned. "Shall I bind them, Alpha?" "Bring her," Theron said, voice rougher than intended. As Rowan and two warriors seized Isolde, Lucius, bloodied but standing, released a desperate pulse along the Silverblood link. "Fall back. Protect the young. Save yourselves." His mind brushed Isolde's with paternal anguish. "Forgive me." She answered with fierce love, though sorrow clogged her throat. Then she felt the sharp sting of ropes against her wrists. Freya lunged only to be dragged away by another warrior. Elias murmured assurances that no unnecessary harm would come, his expression faintly troubled. Even he, loyal as bone to Theron, sensed something askew in this night. Theron surveyed the smoldering village lights beyond the trees. Shadowfang patrols were rounding up the remaining defenders. Fires licked at distant rooftops. Victory lay almost secure, yet triumph felt hollow while the matebond pulsed like a living wound in his chest. Rowan shoved Isolde forward. "Where shall we house the prize?" Theron's attention snapped back to her. Moonlight glazed her hair, and even bound she stood tall, chin lifted. Defiance shone in her eyes like a distant star refusing extinction. The sight heated his blood in ways dominance alone never had. "In my tent," he said. "See that she remains untouched until I decide her fate." Rowan's disappointment flickered, but he obeyed. Elias offered to escort her. Theron nodded once, then turned to lock eyes with Lucius across the trampled field. Rage and grief warred in the older Alpha's gaze, before he allowed warriors to pull him into retreat. Isolde stumbled as Rowan tugged her ropes. Elias steadied her with unexpected gentleness. "Walk," he whispered. "Fighting now will help no one." She bit back a retort, refusing to give either man the satisfaction of her pain. Over the mind link, she felt Astra's calm presence. "I am here," Astra whispered. "Your strength is mine." Shadowfang soldiers parted before Theron as he strode toward his command tent on a hill overlooking the half-ruined Silverblood hamlet. The moon rode high, bloodless and bright, illuminating the path of conquest. Yet beneath its light, something writhed inside him. Need, fury, and the echo of a memory he could almost grasp. Coldwater, a small hand clutching his, a crescent of blood on pale skin. Theron clenched his fists. "Not now." Behind, Rowan mused aloud. "Once you break her spirit, the Silverblood will kneel." Elias flinched. "The Alpha needs no lessons in strategy, Rowan." Rowan's lips twisted, but he fell silent. The tent awaited, dark canvas billowing like the maw of some great beast. Theron stepped inside first, candles flickering to life, as though wary of his presence. He turned when Elias guided Isolde into the space. She remained proud, shoulders squared despite the ropes and dirt on her dress. "Leave us," Theron ordered. Elias opened his mouth to protest, then inclined his head. Rowan followed him out grudgingly, pausing to cast Isolde a last hungry look before the flaps closed. Silence fell, broken only by the faint roar of distant fires. The enclosed air tasted of resin and iron. Isolde's heart hammered so loudly she wondered if Theron heard it. He circled her, predator-slow, gray eyes reflecting candlelight. "You fought bravely," he said at last. "Your courage almost cost you your life." "Finish the job," she snapped. "I'm unafraid." A thin smile curved his lips. "You mistake me. I admire what stands unbroken." She spat at the floorboards. "Admire from afar." At her defiance, a darker glint entered his eyes. He reached to grasp the ropes binding her wrists, tugging her closer until the faint heat of his body rolled over her like thunder. Karis leapt in his mind, urging him onward. Mate. Claim. Complete the bond. Isolde's pulse stuttered. Terror, yes, but also an aching pull she did not understand. Astra's voice whispered steady comfort, yet even the wolf felt the magnetic force that threatened to loosen every certainty Isolde had built. Theron's fingers brushed her shoulder, pushed aside dirt-stained strands of hair. He meant to bare her neck in dominance, but as his hand slid lower, cloth tore beneath his grip. Ivory skin emerged, and the crescent-shaped scar, silver against pale flesh, glimmered beneath the candlelight. Time stumbled. The tent, the fires, the roaring, victorious pack beyond its walls fell away. Water closed over him, dark and cold. He fought the drag of the lake, lungs burning, arms thrashing. Panic choked him until small hands seized his shoulders, hauling him toward moonlight. Air met his starving lips. Trembling, he looked up. A girl knelt beside him, hair plastered to her cheeks, blood streaming from a new wound on her shoulder. A scar shaped like the new moon. Theron snapped back to the present with a sound like a man shot through. His grip loosened. He stumbled back 2 paces, eyes wide as if he'd glimpsed a ghost. Isolde stared, chest heaving. "What?" He raised a hand, silencing her. Breath sawed in and out of his lungs. The matebond thundered, but beneath it rose a second drumbeat. A debt written in water and blood. The girl who saved his life. The enemy he thought he'd destroy. Karis's voice, so constant, fell silent for the first time. Theron turned and slashed open the tent flap. Night air rushed in, cold against his fevered skin. Without looking back, he stepped outside, leaving Isolde bound, but untouched, her confusion echoing into the emptiness he'd left behind. Night pressed close around the command hill, its silence punctured by distant cries and the hiss of dying embers. Within the tent, Isolde stood bound, the ropes chafing her wrists. She listened for footsteps, for any sign that Theron would return, but only the canvas creaked in the wind. The weight of what had almost happened, of the look that had frozen him, pulled at her thoughts in jagged bursts. Astra prowled beneath her skin. "He could have taken us, but he hesitated. That scar is more than memory to him." Isolde exhaled shakily. If it tied them, could it also unravel his purpose? She tugged at the ropes, wincing, then stilled as the tent flap quivered. Expecting Rowan or worse, she braced, but only cold air seeped in. Somewhere beyond the hill, the wounded moaned and the victorious celebrated in low, savage voices. "Freya," she called along the mind link, but static answered. Too far. Too shielded. Panic fluttered, yet she forced herself calm. Her father might live. Her pack still breathed. There was fight left in them all. Outside, Theron paced the crest of the hill, boots crunching scorched grass. Smoke ghosts curled past him, but he scarcely saw them, lost in the memory of a moonlit lake from years ago. The boy he had been had snuck beyond the border with childish arrogance, slipped on a slick stone and plunged. Water had been a black tomb swallowing sound. The struggle, the sharp sting of lungs pleading for air. Then fingers, small and strong, seizing his collar. The rush to the shore, the way the girl's shoulder had torn against a submerged fang of rock. He had coughed lake water while she knelt, pressing a trembling hand to her bleeding flesh. She'd whispered, "You're safe. Don't be afraid." He'd managed only a nod before Silverblood guards converged and he fled into the trees with her voice echoing inside him. Now that past stood before him in the shape of a bound enemy princess. Fate mocked him, splicing gratitude and desire, honor and conquest. Karis prowled in circles. Claim her. Make her ours. Debt is paid with possession. Theron rubbed a hand over his face. The scent of her fear still lingered on his skin, tangled with the maddening sweetness that marked her as mate. Gratitude clashed with hunger, sending sharp pains through his temples. Footsteps approached. Elias halted a few paces off. I posted extra guards. Rowan's prowling. Rowan knows better than to cross my word. Yet Theron heard the uncertainty beneath his own voice. Rowan was ambitious. Ambition sharpened teeth. Elias glanced at the tense dark silhouette. The girl saved you once, didn't she? Theron's gaze snapped to him. You eavesdrop on my mind now, Beta? No, Elias answered softly. But I have watched you for half my life. Tonight you fought like a man at war with himself. A long silence stretched. Finally, Theron said, She bears the scar of my rescue. I thought the memory a dream until I saw it lit by candlelight. Isolde Ravencrest is not your enemy, then? Her father is. Theron's tone scraped raw. He raided our borderlands for years, cost Shadowfang pups and mothers. I came for retribution. And found your savior. And mate, Theron whispered as though tasting ash. The moon ties knots even war cannot sever. Karis surged. She is ours. War phrases mean nothing to fate. Theron clenched his jaw, wrestling the wolf back. Send medical patrols to gather silver blood wounded. We keep prisoners alive. If Ravencrest values his people, he will bargain. Elias dipped his head. And the princess? I will decide shortly. Elias turned, leaving Theron alone but for Rowan, who now approached with a swagger that stank of fresh blood. The pack demands tribute, Rowan said. They expect you to break the Silverblood spirit tonight. The girl's public submission would do it. Theron's eyes iced. Public submission? You mean drag her before the warriors? Tear her dignity like wool? Rowan shrugged. Sometimes fear is the swiftest path to obedience. Karis snarled. Theron tamped him down but let some anger bleed into his stare. Shadowfang is feared enough. Go back to the lines. Guard the prisoners or risk being counted among them. Rowan's lips twitched before he bowed and stalked away. Shadows swallowed him. Theron exhaled, then headed for the tent again, each stride pulled by threads of scent and memory. Inside, Isolde stiffened at his return, though candlelight showed exhaustion in the fine tremor of her shoulders. Theron paused, taking in dirt-smeared silk, the delicate line of her throat where pulse fluttered like a moth. He forced himself to speak evenly. I will not harm you. The words grated. Your bindings stay, but my soldiers will tend your wounds. Her laugh was quiet, brittle. Magnanimous captor. Defiance will not undo tonight, he said. She lifted her chin. Then glory in your victory. But remember, Alpha, your triumph ends at my spirit. I won't kneel. A crease formed between his brows. Spirits can bend. Not mine. Karis approved, rumbling admiration. Strong Luna. Theron ignored him. He moved closer, ignoring the way her scent tugged. Carefully, he cut the ropes and replaced them with softer leather thongs, less painful. She flexed numb fingers, surprise flashing in her eyes. Why soften your chains, she asked. He surprised himself by answering honestly. Because once, you offered me mercy. I repay a fragment of that debt. She blinked, and for a heartbeat silence grew warm, charged with something older than their packs. Then shouts rose outside, snapping the moment. Theron glanced toward the canvas. Rowan's voice barked orders too harsh, too eager. Elias's mind brushed his. Rowan drags prisoners to the hill's edge. They are frightened. Theron's hands fisted. Isolde sensed his tension, her voice fell to a whisper. You lead wolves itching for blood. Can you control them? He met her eyes. Shadowfang follows strength, I am that strength. That may be true, she said, but if you let brutality rot your victory, your rule will sour from within. Her calm struck him. Even bound, she carried the gravity of winter stars. Theron turned away before the bond's pull undid him further. He emerged into torchlit chaos. Rowan had lined prisoners along the ridge, forcing them to their knees. Some bled freely, others shook with silent dread. Freya stood among them, head held high though a bruise marred her cheek. "Rowan," Theron growled. The Gamma pivoted, smile shark-bright. "You said keep them alive, I merely ensure obedience." "This is not obedience, it is spectacle." Theron's aura thickened, and even the night wind recoiled. "Release them to the healers." Rowan hesitated. Pride warred with caution. He inclined his head but held Theron's stare a heartbeat too long. When he finally gestured, warriors untied captives, herding them toward makeshift infirmaries. Freya's eyes found Theron's, then beyond to the tent where Isolde waited. Fear flickered with suspicion, but she allowed herself to be led away. Theron turned on Rowan. "You question me again, Gamma, and the moon will witness your fall." Rowan's jaw flexed, but he murmured, "Yes, Alpha," and melted into shadow. Theron watched him go, a coil of warning steady in his gut. Dawn's first hint paled the eastern sky before the camp settled. Warriors curled beside fires. Wounded groaned under healer hands. Theron strode the perimeter, issuing orders by mind link, ensuring guards remained alert. Elias joined him near the lake's shore where water still glittered silver. "We'll move the princess and key prisoners to Shadowfang tonight," Elias said. Theron nodded, though part of him recoiled at caging her deeper in his world. "Secure wagons, double guard. Inform Mara she'll oversee their comfort when they arrive." He saw Elias's brow arch. "Yes, comfort. They travel alive." A wry smile touched the beta's mouth. "You grow merciful, my friend." Theron grunted. "Do not mistake practicality for mercy." Elias clasped his shoulder. "As you say, I'll set preparations." When he left, Theron gazed at the water. The surface lay calm, betraying nothing of the violence it once witnessed. His reflection stared back. A man forged by duty, tarnished now by longing that rattled his very bones. He sank to a crouch, palm skimming the cool glass. How easily one life owed might upend kingdoms. Behind him, Karis paced, tail lashing. "Oath or no, we must not appear weak. She tests us." Theron resisted a snarl. "She tests nothing, she stands brave. There is honor in that." Karis's surprise flickered, then grudging acceptance. "We need rest. Strength tomorrow." Theron rose, muscles tight. He walked toward the hill again, passing where healers poured moonwort brew into trembling mouths. Silver-blood pups huddled under cloaks. Shadowfang guards stood sentinel but not hostile. Small steps, perhaps, toward a unity he had never envisioned. Yet one voice of dissent could unravel it, and Rowan was that voice. He re-entered his tent. Isolde sat where he had left her, wrists loosely bound, head bowed as though dozing. Candle stubs guttered low. At his approach, her eyes opened, clear and unfazed. "I will move you to my keep," he said. "There you will be treated with dignity, provided you cause none of my wolves harm." She searched his face, seeing conflict he did not bother to hide. "If I refuse?" "Refusal changes nothing, but how you choose to live among us might." Astra murmured through her. "The tide shifts, but we must tread carefully, little moon." Isolde's voice steadied. "You are not the monster I expected." "Do not romanticize me," Theron snapped. "I leveled your village." "Yes," she said, "and spared me when you could have broken me. I will never forgive tonight, but I will remember mercy." Her words struck deeper than any blade. He turned away, throat tight. "Rest while you can. We leave by dusk." He withdrew again, afraid that staying would crack the fragile shell of control he'd found. Outside, the horizon blushed with morning. Wind carried the scent of char and pine. Somewhere a raven cawed, a black silhouette against a bruised sky. Freya sat near the healer tents. She rose as Theron passed. "Alpha," she said curtly. "Your injuries are tended?" "Nothing I can't handle." He inclined his head. "Your bravery marks you. Were you Shadowfang, I would make you Sentinel Captain." She blinked, clearly unsure whether to punch him or preen. "If I were Shadowfang," she said slowly, "I'd be cursing your name in every dawn prayer." A corner of his mouth lifted. Keep that fire. Your princess will need it." Freya's reply was lost as Rowan returned, face calm but eyes blazing. "Alpha, scouts report silver blood stragglers hiding in the northern copse." "Send 2 patrols and an envoy," Theron said. "Offer surrender terms, no slaughter." Rowan's brow furrowed. "Mercy again?" Theron's gaze hardened. "Obedience, Gamma." Rowan stalked off, but not before hate etched a vow across his features. Theron recognized it and filed it beside the night's other dangers. The day crawled. By afternoon, supply wagons arrived from Shadowfang's stronghold. Mara's letter, tucked in a pouch, promised clean rooms and gentle hands for prisoners. Elder Helios's reply to Theron's earlier message was more cryptic. "Destiny circles, soft as feathers, sharp as fangs. Choose your hour of binding with care." Theron crushed the parchment. Even prophecies poked at his failing resolve. At dusk he returned to Isolde. She stood ready, wrists freed entirely now, though guards flanked the door. Dusty moonlight haloed her hair. She met his gaze without flinching. "Wagon or horse?" he asked. "Horse," she answered. "I prefer facing the path to captivity." He nodded and escorted her outside. Rowan appeared with a black mare. "Sturdy mount," he said. When Theron moved to help Isolde into the saddle, Rowan stepped between, offering his hand instead. Isolde hesitated long enough that tension pulsed. Theron's voice cut like flint. "I will see to her." Rowan retreated a step, mask of obedience slipping. Isolde swung onto the mare's back, jaw set. Freya joined her on another horse, offered by Elias. The caravan lined up, Shadowfang warriors guarding silver-blood prisoners in covered wagons, healers riding alongside. Torches blazed as they rolled from the ravaged settlement. Theron rode at the head, Isolde's presence a heat along his right flank. They traveled through twilight's hush, into forests where ancient oaks whispered and unseen, creatures skittered away. Wolf howls lifted, carried by mind link across ranks. Shadowfang warriors reported clear paths. Silverblood prisoners maintained uneasy silence. Hours stretched. Isolde's shoulders sagged, but she held straight. Theron caught himself stealing glances, the way moonbeams tangled in her hair, the faint glow that seemed to hover about her skin, as though magic itself guarded her. His chest tightened with unnamed emotion each time their eyes met in the dark. They paused at a river ford near midnight. Lanterns swung as warriors guided wagons over. Theron dismounted, offering Isolde his hand. She ignored it, sliding to the ground alone, but her legs wobbled. Reflex kicked, he steadied her elbow. Her skin was warm where his fingers brushed and lightning shot through him. She gasped, eyes widening at the same jolt. Matebond flared bright as day. Karis exulted. Even Astra hummed, no longer scornful but wary. Isolde pulled free. "Do not touch me." "You staggered. Let me fall next time." He frowned, though admiration sparked. "Pride will tire you faster than chains. And arrogance will blind you, Alpha." Elias cleared his throat softly. "We should move. Dawn will find us exposed here." Theron nodded. "Mount up." Rowan's voice carried from mid-column. "One prisoner is missing." A silver-blood male slipped his bindings. Theron's head snapped around. "Search the undergrowth, bring him back unharmed." Rowan's expression told another story, but he saluted and spurred his horse into the trees. Isolde's fear spiked through the bond. Freya whispered, Could be one of our scouts. Theron heard, set heels to his stallion, and guided the column onward while small patrols fanned out. Minutes crawled before a distant cry split the night. Not pain, triumph. Rowan reappeared, dragging a limping man by the collar. The prisoner's face bled, but worse was the knife at his ribs. Rowan pressed it too deep. Found him, the Gamma called him. He resisted. Enough. Theron growled, urging his horse forward. He dismounted, grip iron about Rowan's wrist. Release him. Alpha, he tried to flee. Theron twisted until bone creaked. Rowan hissed and dropped the knife. The prisoner slumped into Elias's hold. Blood spread dark across his tunic, but breath still rose and fell. Theron looked down at Rowan. This is the last time you question mercy. Next insubordination, I strip your rank. Rowan's eyes filled with poison. Understood. Theron stepped back. Isolde watched, shock mingling with something like gratitude. For a moment, hope flickered under the weight of conquest. They rode again. Miles later, the distant lights of Shadowfang Keep glimmered, crowns of amber against black cliffs. Towers loomed, their shapes severe yet impressive. The main gate groaned open as the caravan approached, and horns announced their return. Pack wolves poured into the courtyard, cheers rising though they hushed when they saw Silverblood prisoners. Theron swung down and motioned to healers. Take wounded to infirmary. Separate Silverblood from Shadowfang patients, but give equal care. A murmur rippled, surprise but no open dissent. Mara hurried from the main hall, auburn braids swishing. She bowed quickly. Rooms prepared, Alpha. Good. He gestured to Isolde. The princess stays in the East Tower chamber. Guards outside, but no chains. Isolde's lips parted. Why trust me? Because fear breeds spite, he said. I'd rather know your moves than chain your anger in darkness. She almost smiled, but grief tugged it into a straight line. Freya helped her dismount. Mara offered a gentle hand. As Isolde turned away, she looked back at Theron, eyes searching. He felt words brush his mind, faint as down. Thank you. He didn't know if she'd sent it or if his own heart whispered. Still, he allowed it to settle within. Later, torches guttered low as Theron entered his private study. Maps lay sprawled, battle lines scrawled in red ink. He poured water into a tin mug, hands steady though his mind raced. Karis prowled the edges of thought. We brought her home. Soon you will bind. Theron set the mug down with a soft clang. Not yet. Why delay? Every breath without her weakens us. Every breath teaches control. The wolf huffed but quieted. A knock sounded. Elias entered, closing the door. Rowan resents your decisions, the beta said. I've eyes. He may seek allies. Theron steepled hands. Let him gather whispers. It will reveal ambitious wolves we must cull. Elias frowned. You play a dangerous game. A throne is dangerous, Theron replied. He rose, crossing to the window. Below, lanterns burned in orderly rows. Somewhere in the East Tower, a light glimmered where Isolde likely lay awake. He felt her presence through the bond, tired but fierce, wary yet unbroken. A tremor of something close to longing shivered inside him. The girl who saved his life, now captive in his stone walls. Destiny wound them tight as chains, and he must decide whether to forge those chains into bonds of unity or snap them in pursuit of vengeance. Elias spoke softly. Rest tonight, Alpha. Tomorrow brings negotiations, and whatever fate your Luna decides. My Luna? Theron turned, half a smile ghosting. She does not claim me. The moon has claimed you both, only your pride denies it. Theron laughed without warmth. Perhaps. Or perhaps I am safeguarding her from the monster war made of me. He dismissed Elias, who left with worry in his shoulders. Alone again, Theron looked to the eastern tower's faint glow, until candles there winked out. He closed his eyes, letting night breeze wash over heated skin. Across the keep, Isolde lay on a feather mattress too soft for her tired bones. Freya slept on a cot nearby, breath even. Outside the door, guards murmured good-natured insults about long watches. Isolde traced fingers over her scar, recalling the look in Theron's eyes when he saw it. A debt, a bond, a threat. What will he choose? Astra's reply was gentle. We will know soon. Until then, heal, gather strength. A storm of hearts approaches. Isolde exhaled and allowed her eyes to close. Yet far away, she felt the restless thrum of Theron's soul, tethered to hers by a thread of moonlit fate neither could sever. Pale dawn bled into soft amber across the courtyard as the keep shook off the last threads of night. Isolde stirred beneath a quilt scented faintly of cedar. The room glowed with fragile warmth from a small hearth, its flames carefully tended by Mara, who stood nearby smoothing linen onto a side table. You slept, Mara said, voice gentle. Not long, but deeply. Isolde sat up, muscles complaining. Freya stretched on the cot, red hair a wild halo. Are we still prisoners? She mumbled, rubbing her eyes. For the moment, Mara answered. But you are under my care now, and I keep a healer's code. Breakfast first. Mara uncovered a tray of dark bread, berries, and warm broth. Isolde's stomach tightened with hunger she hadn't realized. She accepted the bowl, offering thanks. Freya ate greedily, glancing at the door where guards exchanged muffled jokes. Your alpha trusts you, Isolde observed. Mara smiled wryly. He trusts my stubbornness. If I say you deserve rest, he won't argue. Something flickered behind her eyes. Worry, born of sibling intuition. Theron rarely sleeps after battle. He lurked the battlements all night. Isolde lowered her spoon, heartbeat ticking faster at the sound of his name. Astra stirred, ears pricked. Little moon he hovers near, though, keeps his distance. He's wrestling himself, Mara added softly. I know that look. Our mother called it the storm behind his eyes. Freya snorted. Storm of ego. Mara laughed, not offended. Maybe. But he isn't cruel for cruelty's sake. Something changed him last night. Isolde felt heat climb her cheeks at the memory of his hand against her elbow, the lightning bolt of the bond. She pushed the bowl away. I need fresh air. Mara hesitated, then nodded. Courtyard garden is safe. Guards will shadow you, but you're free to walk. Freya straightened. We go together. A short while later they descended the tower stairs, guards trailing. Morning sunlight spread over stone arches and slate roofs. Along the main walk, healers escorted wounded prisoners to an infirmary wing. Some Shadowfang wolves offered water gourds, others only suspicious glares. But there was no overt hostility. It was unsettling, almost more so than blades. They reached a walled garden blooming with late summer roses. Bees droned lazily. A fountain murmured in the center. Isolde inhaled flower-sweet air, letting tension ease from her shoulders. She paced among hedges, trailing fingers across soft petals. Freya sank to a bench. If we tried to shift, she whispered, how many seconds before those guards knock us unconscious? 5, Isolde guessed. They know I'm stronger in wolf form. Astra circled, tail twitching. Better to conserve strength. Across the courtyard, Theron appeared on a parapet, speaking with an aged man draped in charcoal robes. Elder Helios. Sunlight caught silver threads in Helios's beard as he leaned on a polished cane. Isolde watched them gesture toward the east, Helios's hands weaving shapes like constellations. At one point, the elder glanced down, meeting Isolde's gaze despite distance. His eyes, bright as polished amber, lingered with curious weight before he resumed speaking. What secrets does he keep? Astra murmured. Theron finished the conversation, then descended stone steps 2 at a time, cloak billowing. He passed through an arch and strode into the garden. Guards stiffened. Freya rose defensively, but Theron's focus locked on Isolde. Elder Helios wishes audience with you, he said. Why? Isolde asked. He calls you Song of the Moon and claims prophecy binds our packs. Freya rolled her eyes. Prophets love riddles. Theron ignored her. You may decline, but Helios rarely seeks direct communion. Isolde measured him. He looked tired, stubble shadowing his jaw, yet his eyes held a wary gentleness. I'll meet him, she said, surprising herself. Theron gestured, and one guard led Freya in another direction, promising to return her once weapons checks concluded. Freya protested, but Isolde squeezed her arm. Freya left reluctantly. Theron and Isolde walked side by side through an interior corridor. The closeness set her nerves humming. She could feel the warmth of him, even without contact. You sense him, Astra noted. The cord between mates hums at this range. Do you trust Helios? Isolde asked. I trust his wisdom while distrusting his motives. That sounds exhausting. It is leadership. He glanced over. Your father bears the same burden. Pain flashed through her. Is he alive? Yes. He surrendered at dawn. He's in our infirmary. Relief struck so hard her knees weakened. She gripped a wall sconce, trying to steady breathing. Theron's hand hovered near her waist before withdrawing. May I see him? She asked. After Helios, he said. The healers mend 2 broken ribs. When pain subsides, I'll allow a visit. Supervised. He caught her glare. Hostage or no, I won't deny a daughter her father. Thank you, she whispered. They reached a circular library lit by stained glass. Shelves climbed 4 stories, ladders running ceilingward. Elder Helios stood at a massive table strewn with scrolls. He lifted his head and smiled. The moon sends both halves of a single soul, he intoned. Welcome, Princess of Silverblood. Isolde inclined her head. Elder. Helios gestured to carved chairs. Theron remained standing behind her, arms crossed. Helios spread a parchment depicting 2 entwined wolves beneath a crescent moon. Centuries ago, a Silverblood maiden saved a Shadowfang prince from drowning. Their bond forged peace until jealous hearts severed it. War raged for 200 years. His finger traced the wolves. Prophecy declares that when Scar and Scar-bearer meet under Wolf Moon, unity may bloom anew, if wounds of pride heal. Isolde's skin prickled. You claim Theron is descendant of that prince and I of the maiden? Lineage threads are rarely straight, Helios said, but the scar on your shoulder sings to the echoes of that old story. Whether we relive tragedy or reshape it is yours to choose. Theron remained silent, but Isolde heard Karis's low rumble across the bond. She is ours by decree older than time. Isolde cleared her throat. I respect legends, Elder, yet present wounds bleed. My pack lies broken. Helios nodded. Healing begins with difficult mercy. The Alpha must cease to punish for past wrongs, and the princess must temper wrath with vision. Theron's voice cut in, each word precise. Am I to believe love men slaughter overnight? Love, no. Choice, yes, Helios replied. The moon illumines the path. Feet must still walk. He rolled the parchment, handing it to Isolde. Keep this. Let memory counsel you when anger blinds. Isolde accepted it, though unsure what comfort drawings could offer. Helios's gaze softened. You are stronger than you know, child of Scar and water. Guard the spark inside. Theron placed a hand on Isolde's shoulder, a touch both protective and proprietary that sent heat spiraling through her chest. Enough riddles, Elder. Helios's smile widened. Wolves who fear riddles usually fear their answers. He turned away, cane tapping a private rhythm as he disappeared among towering shelves. Isolde exhaled. I expected theatrics, not compassion. Theron guided her from the library. Helios served my father and his father. He sees beyond flesh, sometimes too far. They returned to the corridor where Freya waited, arms crossed. Still breathing, is he? Barely, Isolde teased. Theron lifted a brow at Freya. Your loyalty impresses. Freya shrugged. She saved me more times than I can count. Theron's lips curved almost kindly before he caught himself and signaled the guards to escort them to the infirmary wing. They entered a chamber heavy with the scent of herbs and iron. Lucius lay on a cot, bandaged chest shallowly rising, his face lit with weary joy when he saw Isolde. She hurried to his side, kneeling. "Father," she whispered. He gripped her hand, eyes shining. "My brave girl." Theron stood back. Freya lingered near the door. Healers nudged pots over glowing coals, stirring thick salves. One bowed to Theron. "Ribs are knitting, Alpha. Fever low." Lucius's gaze flicked to Theron, burning with a mix of gratitude and fury. "You heal what you broke." "Why?" Theron met the stare without flinching. "Because war may end. Hatred cannot feed a future pack." Lucius scoffed, wincing at pain. "Words, not restitution." Isolde squeezed his hand. "Father, rest. We will find a solution." Theron signaled to the healers. "Give them privacy." He and Freya stepped outside. Freya eyed him. "You protect us, yet your Gamma enjoys terror. Why keep him?" Theron glanced down the hall where Rowan directed guards with clipped precision. Rowan's ambition once served the pack. Now it corrodes. Removing him outright would divide loyalties. Until I'm certain who follows him I watch. Freya folded arms. "If he threatens Isolde again, watch how I remove his eyes." Theron's mouth twitched. A warning he may soon deserve. A howl sliced the air, raw with alarm. Warrior minds flooded the link. Intruders at southern wall. 5, maybe 6 wolves in silver-blood gray pelts spotted beyond the ravine. Theron snapped orders along the bond. "Hold the rampart. Capture if possible. Do not kill unless forced. Elias, with me." He eyed Freya. "Stay here." Her smile was grim. "If those are my packmates, I won't let your wolves maim them." Theron hesitated, then gestured for 2 guards to keep her from harm, but allow her presence. They sprinted down corridors and through the main gate where riders assembled. Torches flared as gates opened. Theron, Elias, and a dozen selected warriors crossed the narrow bridge to the southern bank. Wind carried scents of fear, iron, and pine. Shadows flickered among boulders. Suddenly, a figure bolted, slender, limping. Freya shouted, "Keel, hold!" The fleeing wolf shifted mid-stride, revealing a young archer of silver blood bleeding from the thigh. He skidded at the sight of Theron, drawing a shaky arrow. Freya rushed forward, arms high. "He's brother to my cousin, let me speak." Theron gave a curt nod. Guards lowered weapons but remained alert. Freya spoke quickly, coaxing. Keel's eyes darted behind as 2 more figures emerged. One healer bearing satchel, one battered soldier barely able to stand. Theron stepped forward, hands empty. "You're safe if you surrender." "Tyrant." The injured soldier spat, raising a spear but wavering. Theron motioned a healer. "Let us bind your wounds." A second later, an arrow hissed from the rocks. Elias tackled Theron aside. The arrow grazed his cloak, nicking his arm. Warriors roared, fanning out. Rowan appeared from the darkness where he'd been posted. Too late. Theron's voice cracked over the link. "Find the shooter alive." In minutes, warriors dragged a snarling youth before him. Blood smeared his face. Defiance burned in his eyes. Theron recognized the bitter hatred that war fermented in boys taught only vengeance. Rowan pressed a dagger to the youth's throat. "A gift for the Alpha. Justice." "Stand down," Theron ordered. Rowan sneered. "He tried to kill you." And missed. Theron seized Rowan's wrist, twisting until the dagger clattered to stone. "We punish intent with law, not impulse." Rowan's face twisted, but he released the boy. Guards hauled the youth aside. Theron turned to the Silverblood trio. "Your people will not be harmed. Let the healer treat you, then you'll join others in the infirmary." Freya touched Keel's shoulder. "Trust him," she whispered. Keel nodded grudgingly. While wounds were bound, Elias spoke softly at Theron's side. Rowan's challenge grows. Theron nodded once. I'll end it soon. By the time they returned to the keep, dawn bled toward noon. Lucius had fallen asleep. Isolde watched over him. Relief softened her as she saw Keel bandaged and safe. Theron caught her gaze, but Rowan's glare burned nearby. Hatred pulsed around him, a gathering storm. Later, in the Great Hall, Theron convened his senior warriors, including Rowan. Isolde observed from a balcony, Freya at her side. Elder Helios watched from shadows. Theron spoke. Shadowfang stands victorious, yet we do not drown honor in blood. Silverblood prisoners shall be treated as guests under watch. Any mistreatment will answer to me. A murmur ran through the wolves. Rowan stepped forward. Mercy to enemies weakens us. Packs beyond our border sniff at compassion like rot. Theron's voice resonated. Strength chooses its own measure. I choose restraint. Rowan's lip curled. Restraint blinded your father, cost us land. Must it cost us respect? Careful, Rowan, Elias warned. Rowan's gaze slid to Isolde above, then back. Perhaps the Alpha is compromised, bound by a silver-blood witch who saved him as a pup. A hushed gasp, Theron's aura darkened. Speak again. Rowan smirked. You dragged her here as a trophy, yet she wears no chains. We know why. Fate's collar tightens around your neck, Alpha. If you won't break it, someone must. A crash answered. Theron leapt the dais, fist striking Rowan's jaw. Rowan staggered but laughed through blood. Warriors grabbed weapons. Isolde gripped the railing, pulse hammering. Karis roared within Theron. Kill him. He endangers our Luna, our pack. Rowan's eyes shone fever bright. See how easily your Alpha succumbs to rage? Enough, Elias barked, inserting himself. Rowan, you are relieved of command. Rowan spat. You haven't authority. I have his, Elias replied, nodding to Theron, who stood trembling with restraint. Theron's voice dropped to deadly calm. Rowan Dawnthorn, by Alpha decree you are stripped of rank and placed in irons until judgment. 2 guards advanced. Rowan's gaze darted, calculating. A sudden flare of silver dust exploded, pocketed flash powder. Guards coughed, eyes streaming. When the haze cleared, Rowan was gone. Alarms pealed. Wolves surged to block exits. Mind links crackled with pursuit orders. Isolde exhaled sharply. Freya cursed. Theron spun, barking to sentries. Lock down the keep. Find him before dusk. Helios's voice drifted across hall like wind through crypts. The serpent slithers beyond walls already, Alpha. But fangs turn inward first. Theron strode out. Isolde followed instinct, descending stairs and slipping among warriors to the east corridor. Freya tried to grab her arm, but she shook free. What are you doing? Freya hissed. Rowan hates me. If he can't hit Theron, he'll target what he deems weakness. They reached her tower door where 2 guards lay unconscious, throats pricked but alive. Fear iced Isolde's limbs. She pushed inside. Rowan loomed near the balcony, dagger in hand. Moonlight from high windows traced his lean silhouette. He turned, grin feral. Pretty Luna, he purred. Time to break the Alpha's heart. Isolde raised her palms. Astra surged, ready to shift, but cramped space would hinder agility. She spoke steady. Killing me won't grant you pack. Perhaps, but it will end his reign of softness. Fear returns wolves to strength. Freya burst in. Staff raised. Rowan kicked a table, sending it crashing into her. She tumbled back. Isolde lunged, catching Rowan's wrist. They grappled. The dagger sliced air, grazing her forearm. Pain seared. Rowan yanked free, trapping her between bedpost and wall. You should have died in the village, he snarled. A blast of fury slammed through the matebond. Footsteps thundered. Theron. The door cracked open. He barreled in, eyes blazing silver. Rowan grabbed Isolde, blade under her chin. One step and she bleeds, Rowan hissed. Theron froze, every muscle taut. Karis howled, straining to leap. But Theron held him with iron will. "Drop the knife," Theron said, voice like winter steel. "Command wolves, not me." Rowan's cheeks twitched. "Let me walk out and I spare her." Isolde's heart pounded against the blade's edge. Blood trickled where steel pressed. She stared at Theron, desperation flickering. In his eyes, she saw rage caged by terror. Elias moved behind Theron, hand on hilt. Theron waved him back. "Rowan, release her," he said. "I'll grant exile, no pursuit." Rowan laughed. "You think kindness its own reward?" Theron took one careful step. Rowan's hand flexed, drawing a thin line of crimson on Isolde's throat. Theron halted, agony passing across his features. Karis surged, nearly shattering restraint. "Our mate is bleeding." Isolde gasped. Astra whispered, "Trust him." She whispered back, "Theron." His gaze locked with hers. He inhaled, shoulders squaring. "Rowan," he said softly. "Do you smell it? Her blood. Silver blood mingled with mine the day she saved me. Kill her. You kill Shadowfang's honor." Rowan hesitated, nostrils flaring. Confusion flickered. Isolde saw his grip loosen by a breath. She seized the moment, stomped his foot, elbowed his ribs. The dagger wobbled. Theron lunged, ripping Rowan away. Steel clanged against floorboards. Rowan twisted, landed a punch across Theron's jaw, but Theron barely flinched, grabbing Rowan's throat and driving him into wall. Wood cracked. Rowan clawed at the hand as Karis thundered kill. Isolde pressed a cloth to her neck, watching wide-eyed. Rowan's face purpled. Theron's grip trembled. Battle between mercy and rage. Finally, he shoved Rowan down, turning to guards. "Chains," he rasped. They clapped irons on Rowan's wrists and hauled him away. Rowan spit blood, hatred undimmed. "This is not over. Others will finish what I began." When silence returned, Theron faced Isolde. Blood streaked her forearm and neck. He stepped close, fingers trembling as they brushed her cheek. "I failed you," he whispered. "You saved me." His expression cracked, relief mingled with raw fear. "Your wound?" "A scratch." He exhaled, head bowing until forehead met hers. The bond pulsed, warm and unguarded. Freya slipped out, giving them privacy. Theron spoke, barely audible. "You are more than debt, more than prophecy. I don't know how to be your mate without destroying what you love." Isolde lifted a shaking hand, touching his chest where heart pounded. "Maybe we start by not destroying each other." His laugh was a ragged breath. He drew back, studying her face. Candlelight painted soft shadows along high cheekbones and full lips. The urge to kiss her pressed like gravity. Karis whispered yes, but he fought it. Elias entered, tension carved in every line. "Alpha, the council demands verdict for Rowan." "Dungeon until I convene tribunal," Theron said, eyes still on Isolde. "Double guard." Elias nodded, but before leaving he said, "Shadowfang stands with you, Theron. Most of us." After he went, Isolde sagged. Blood seeped through cloth at her neck. Theron scooped her gently into his arms. She tensed, then relaxed against him, exhaustion washing through. "I can walk," she murmured. "Humor me," he said, carrying her down the corridor to the healer's alcove. Mara met them, gasping. She cleaned and stitched the small cut, praising Isolde's courage. Freya hovered, eyes wet. When the wound was bandaged, Theron guided Isolde back to her chamber. Guards bowed, ashamed at failure. Inside, moonlight traced silver on the floor. He set her on the bed, hesitant to leave. Isolde touched his wrist. "Stay until I sleep." Surprise flickered, then soft warmth. He sat on a chair, watching her breathe. Minutes passed. Her lashes fluttered, finally settling. The bond hummed calm. Karis lay like a great black hound at his feet, content. In the corridor, Elias conferred with Helios. Voices drifted. "Rowan has allies beyond our walls," Elias warned. Helios replied, The shadow of ambition reaches far. Dawn may bring more than judgment. Theron listened, dread coiling. As he gazed at the sleeping princess, oath crystallized. He would protect her, against Rowan, against vengeance, against himself. But outside the window, distant torches flickered in the long valley road, lights of unknown wolves advancing under a blood-red moon. The chapter ends here, the air heavy with the promise of war and the fragile spark of a bond that could end it, or drown both packs in savage innocence. Isolde woke from restless half-sleep to find silver pre-dawn light fingering the stones of her chamber. Shadows clung to corners like wary sentries, and despite the extra guards Theron had posted outside her door the night before, unease wound through her ribs as tightly as the laces on her gown. Astra prowled just beneath her skin, tail lashing in silent agitation. "You will not rest until you listen to the bond, little moon." Isolde eased to the window seat, pulling her knees to her chest. Beyond the narrow glass, Shadowfang Keep loomed over rolling forest, its towers still crowned in fading starlight. She pressed her palm to the cold pane and tried to ignore the warmth blooming low in her belly whenever her thoughts strayed to Theron. Madness, she scolded herself. Yet the madness tasted sweet, an ache rather than a wound. A soft scrape reached her ears, leather boots shifting on the corridor flagstones. She knew that measured cadence now, the way the echo carried weight and discipline in equal parts. Before she could second-guess herself, she whispered, "Can't sleep either?" The voice outside answered, pitched barely above the hush of dawn. "Not since my gamma decided daggers belonged at your throat." Theron's tone held edges, but not for her. She heard frustration at his own failure, and something gentler that unsettled her even more. She stood, stepping close to the door, though a heavy oak plank remained between them. "I'm safe. You needn't stand vigil all night." "I need many things," he said quietly, "yet only one steals my rest." Her breath caught. Astra's ears pricked in pleased surprise. Isolde stared at the solid wood, pulse thrumming. "You're the reason my heart pounds louder than the drums calling soldiers to arms," she admitted, voice trembling. "I don't know whether to curse you or what." His word drifted like warm breath across her neck, though they did not touch. "Or cross the threshold," she whispered. Silence stretched. She could feel him leaning in, the matebond humming vibrant as summer lightning. Karis rumbled in Theron's mind, and she sensed it through the cord, primal approval, possessive heat. At last he murmured, "When you cross, it'll be because you choose it, not because the bond drags you." That tenderness disarmed her more than rough hands ever could. She swallowed, fingers brushing the latch before she forced them away. "Then perhaps I must stay on my side until the world stops reeling." He exhaled, a hitch of reluctant laughter. "I'll be just here when it steadies." His footsteps receded at last. She felt their bond stretch but not snap. Astra curled against her thoughts, purring contentment. "The world never steadies, little moon, but you will learn to dance on its spin." Isolde managed a frail smile and let dawn claim the sky. Theron's war room smelled of parchment, ink, and wolf musk by the time torches guttered under full morning light. Elias stood at the map table, tracing patrol routes with a charcoal stick. Mara, fresh from the infirmary, poured steaming nettle tea for whoever remembered to breathe. Elder Helios hovered like moonlit smoke near tall windows, unreadable eyes turned toward distant peaks. When Theron strode in, armor half-buckled and agitation writ in the tight lines around his mouth, all conversation paused. "Rowan moves fast," Elias reported. "Scouts confirm he's gathered at least 30 rogues, former Shadowfang deserters, and 3 small feral bands we once drove north." Mara frowned. "If they strike before we find them." "They'll strike," Theron cut in, "and they'll aim for the keep's weakest flank, hearts, not walls." Helios's voice slid like water over stone. "A wolf that cannot break stone gnaws at the root." Before Theron could reply, the door opened and Isolde entered, unannounced. Freya trailed behind, posture rigid but chin high. Sunlight haloed Isolde's pale hair. Every pair of eyes tracked her progress across the chamber as though she tugged gravity itself. "I might help with Rowan," she said, stopping opposite Theron. "He's predictable when power is dangled." Elias inclined his head in greeting, but worry flickered across his brow. Mara's eyes softened, quickly filling a second cup of tea and offering it to Isolde. The princess accepted, hands steady despite the tension quivering in the air. Theron's gaze roamed her face in frank admiration before he remembered others watched. He cleared his throat. "Your counsel is welcome, though these walls are dangerous now." "Danger stalks every border," Isolde replied. "Better I face it than wait caged." The quiet conviction in her tone stirred something fierce in Theron's chest. Karis chuffed agreement. Elias exchanged a glance with Mara, both hiding small smiles. Isolde stepped to the map, pointing to a narrow valley marked with fading ink. "Rowan trained recruits there when discipline forbade open sparring. He loves ambush funnels. Post archers on either ridge. He'll think he holds high ground." Theron folded his arms, impressed. "You recall his preferences well." "I watched my father survive them." Her shoulders squared. "I won't see the same tactics harm your wolves, or mine." Helios's cane clicked lightly across the floor. "Two souls see with one set of eyes. Prophecy breathes." He bowed his silver head to Isolde, then turned away before she could question him. Theron placed a hand on the map beside hers, close enough that their knuckles grazed. Sparks leapt through that fleeting contact. Isolde's breath stuttered. He felt it too, heat licking the base of his spine, yet he only said, "We'll set the archers. Your insight may save lives." A faint flush colored her cheeks. "Lives matter more than pride. Make use of me." Freya arched an eyebrow at Isolde, smirking. Isolde tried to glare but failed, her lips tilted in the smallest grin. In that fragile moment, Theron thought he could watch her smile forever. The council concluded with orders flying along mind links. Isolde turned to leave, but Theron caught her elbow. "Walk with me at dusk," he murmured sotto voce. "There's a garden my mother tended when peace still breathed here." She hesitated, heart hammering, then nodded once before slipping out. His palm tingled where her heat had lingered. The sun slid behind jagged roofs, spilling amber across stone when Theron found Isolde waiting under an arch flanked by climbing roses. She wore a simple slate cloak over traveling leathers. Wind teased stray silver strands around her face. One guard followed at a respectful distance as they entered the walled garden, but at a quick, mind-linked command from Theron, he retreated to the gate. Crickets chirred among thyme, and old paths wound beneath apple trees heavy with late fruit. Isolde inhaled, surprised by the perfumed hush after days of tension. Hard to believe war prowls beyond that wall. "This garden bloomed stubbornly," Theron said, "like its new guest." Warm laughter slipped from her before she could tamp it down. He led her toward a stone bench. Twilight smeared the sky lavender, casting soft shadow lace over her features. She glanced at the scar on her shoulder, partly visible through the loose neckline of her cloak. "You stare again." "I memorize," he corrected softly. "When the world roars, I remember a moment on a riverbank, and the girl who chose my life over her safety." Isolde's throat tightened. "I was only a child. A child with courage that dwarfed kings." His gaze drifted to the crescent mark. With slow reverence, he lifted a hand. She did not flinch as fingers brushed the pale arc. The bond blazed, humming low and sweet. Karis rumbled approval. Astra's sigh of contentment washed warmth through Isolde's limbs. "You carried my life on your back that night," Theron murmured. "Let me carry yours now." Her eyes shimmered in the hush. "I'm tired of carrying hate." She reached to gently slide her fingers along the faint white scar near his temple. "We both bear scars. Perhaps they match, so we recognize each other in the dark." Heat coiled between them, twisting tighter when his thumb traced the curve of her collarbone. Her breath quickened. "Theron." He leaned closer, voice hoarse. "Tell me if you wish distance. Distance is drowning." She tipped her chin, lips inches from his. Before passion could crest, footsteps echoed down the path. Mara's. She paused, smiling knowingly, but kept her gaze polite. Brother, the patrol captains need final route approval. Theron drew a steadying breath, stepping back though his fingers reluctantly fell away. I'll come. Isolde touched her scar, cheeks aflame. Theron's hunger mirrored hers, visible in the way his pupils dilated before he masked it with command. He inclined his head. Meet me at the lake after midnight. If rest evades you again. Her pulse sang at the invitation. If the moon calls, I'll answer. He departed beside Mara, leaving the scent of pine and iron and a promise that tasted of moonlight. Night clung soft and thick when Isolde slipped from her room. Guards nodded, instructed to let her pass. She padded along torchlit corridors, heart thundering louder with each turn. Freya, feigning sleep on a cot near the door, muttered behind her, "Don't do anything I wouldn't." The tease eased Isolde's nerves even as excitement fluttered. Cool air greeted her beyond the gate. She followed the sloped lawn toward the small lake hidden behind willow curtains. A white corona glistened around the full moon, painting the water glass bright. Cicadas thrummed their nocturnal hymn. Theron emerged from shadows beneath an oak, cloak billowing. The moment their eyes met, the bond snapped taut, pulling them across the clearing until they stood close enough to share the same breath. Neither spoke. Words were superfluous against the roaring in their veins. He reached first, tracing a knuckle from her temple to jaw. She leaned into the touch, hands sliding up his chest to the clasp of his cloak. "Are you certain?" he asked, voice raw. "I choose this. Choose you." She replied, gaze steady. Astra purred approval. Kairos howled, triumphant. Theron kissed her, slow fire that melted fear and forged want. She answered, pulling him closer. Stars wheeled overhead, witnesses to the surrender. When he eased her cloak from her shoulders, moonlight brushed pale skin. She shivered at the devotion in his eyes. He laid his palms respectfully at her waist, pausing. Mutual trust shimmered between them, gleaming brighter than the moonlit waves. "I will never take what isn't freely given," he vowed. "Then take it," she whispered, pressing closer. "It's yours." Their wolves rejoiced, thoughts entwining with their humans. Heat unfurled as clothes loosened and cool grass pillowed bare feet. The lake mirrored their embrace, two reflections merging into one. They moved gently, breaths mingling, each caress drawing them deeper into shared solace. When the bond finally sealed on a silent, trembling gasp, luminous threads of energy danced across their skins like fireflies before fading into familiar warmth. Theron held her afterwards, cloak wrapped around them both as they rested beneath the willow canopy. Her head lay over his heartbeat. His fingers drifted idle circles on her back. For the first time since war shattered her world, peace lingered. "Does this make us fools or heroes?" she asked sleepily. "Wolves who choose love over blood become something rarer," he murmured. "Perhaps saviors." She smiled against his chest. "Then let us save each other first." He pressed a kiss to her hair. Karis lounged content beside Astra in their shared mental space, both wolves panting happily beneath a silver moon. A twig snapped upriver, light footsteps pounding toward them. A panting scout burst into the clearing, eyes wide. "Alpha, message from the Northern Watch. Rowan marches with at least 3 rogue packs. They demand we deliver the princess by dawn, or face siege." Theron's arms tightened around Isolde. In his chest, Karis's growl rumbled thunder. He rose, helping her to her feet without releasing her hand. "Tell the watch to prepare defenses," he ordered, "and summon every captain to the war court." The scout sped away. Isolde squared her shoulders, the cold breeze fluttering her loose hair. "I stand with you," she declared. He turned, pride and fierce affection burning in his gaze. "You are my strength, Isolde, and I will never forfeit my strength." Hand in hand they strode back toward Shadowfang Keep, moonlight casting a single, elongated silhouette, where once 2 had walked alone. Isolde scarcely remembered the journey back up the incline toward Shadowfang's looming walls. Only the firm warmth of Theron's fingers locked through hers, the pulse of the matebond steady as a drum beneath her ribs, and the growing clamor of alarmed minds spread across the night-dim keep. By the time they crossed the gate, torches flickered everywhere, shadows hopping like restless spirits along the battlements. Wolves in partial shifts darted to and fro securing arrows, hauling barrels of pitch, tightening iron-bound doors. War drums thudded from the highest turret, the ancient call to arms echoing across stone and into bone. Elias waited at the courtyard center, armor hastily strapped, eyes sharp despite sleeplessness. He dipped his head to Isolde, but urgency drew his words. Rowan's vanguard was spotted cresting the western ridge 2 miles off. Scouting ravens say they'll reach the outer wall just after sunrise. We'll meet them beyond the ravine, Theron said, voice carrying calm over the swirl of fear. I'll ride with the forward phalanx. Elias, coordinate archer deployment along both ridges. Elias nodded, then leaned close enough that only Isolde and Theron would hear. The pack murmurs, Alpha. Some whisper trading peace for the princess. Isolde bristled, but Theron's jaw set. They'll hold their tongues when Dawn finds swords at their throats and she at my side. He squeezed her hand once, reassurance passing through skin and bond alike. Karis's rumble vibrated in Isolde's chest. Astra answered with steady confidence. Freya sprinted across the courtyard, her russet braid whipping behind her. She flung her arms around Isolde, then drew back, eyes shining with pride. I told Mara you wouldn't hide behind walls. She owes me 3 silver pieces now. Isolde managed a tense laugh, hugging Freya again. Stay near the healers to start, then do whatever your wolf commands. My wolf commands mayhem, Freya said, but the joke couldn't mask her fear. Her green eyes darted to Theron. Protect her. With my life, Theron replied simply. Mara appeared from the doorway of the infirmary, wiping drying blood from her hands, work on late injuries that never slept. On seeing Isolde, she offered a tired smile. Lucius regained consciousness. He asks for you. Isolde's heart lurched. Take me to him? She glanced to Theron for permission. His returning nod carried the weight of trust. I'll meet you at the stable as soon as I settle captains, he said. Mara guided Isolde through a side hall reverberating with stamping hooves and clanking armor. The infirmary smelled of boiled herbs and iron tang. Lucius lay braced on pillows, color better but eyes clouded with pain. At Isolde's approach, he struggled upright. Mara gently pressed him back. My daughter defies chains, he rasped, voice hoarse but proud. Word spreads quickly, even through stone. Isolde clasped his hand. I am safe, Theron. Blackwell. Hatred flashed, then softened into something closer to reluctant curiosity. They say the moon bound you to him. It bound us both, she corrected softly. Yet choice still matters. I choose to stand beside him. Lucius's breathing hitched. Then Silverblood stands too, through me, if nothing more. Isolde's throat tightened. Your wounds will not keep me from raising a sword should our packs unite, he muttered, then grimaced at his own weakness. Mara folded a new compress, exchanging a knowing look with Isolde. Keep your strength for counsel, not combat. Lucius managed a faint smile. Spoken like a healer who knows stubborn wolves. I know plenty, Mara returned, eyes flicking toward Isolde with warm acceptance. Some are softer in truth than fur implies. Isolde squeezed Mara's fingers in silent gratitude, then bent to kiss her father's brow. Rest. Dawn will need your wisdom. Helios waited in the corridor's shadows, cane tip tapping a patient rhythm. The moon drops blood and silver onto the field, he said when Mara vanished back inside the ward. Yet hearts forged together may bend blades. Isolde studied the elder. Prophecy again? Merely observation of threads already weaving. His gaze landed on her bandaged throat, the thin line Rowan's knife had etched. A scar never weeps twice, but it may ache before storms. Guard yours. Isolde nodded. The words, though opaque, felt like caution laced with hope. Astride her borrowed gray mare moments later, she trotted to the main stable yard. Theron swung atop his warhorse, Nightfall, a towering black stallion that stamped impatience. He extended a gloved hand. Isolde guided her mount beside him, heart skipping at his steady presence. Freya mounted a lithe dun behind them, quiver crossing her back, bow strung. Torches lined the central arch as captains clustered for final orders. Elias gave crisp commands, his voice carried by mind link so wolves across ramparts could heed. Packs of archers melted through hidden doors leading to ridge walkways. Armored spearmen followed Theron through the great gate, formation precise despite haste. Beyond outer walls, the land sloped gentler than night before. Pale dawn stroked treetops just beginning to shimmer with pink. A low fog hugged the ravine separating keep from forest's edge. The first ridge lay to their left, already dotted with Shadowfang archers blending into pine trunks. On the opposite rise, Silverblood archers, volunteers freed earlier, knocked arrow to string as Elias, wearing neutral colors, marched between them, ensuring supply crates reached both sides equally. Isolde's chest swelled at the sight, two packs working in harmony after generations of blood. Astra murmured awe, while Karis projected satisfied pride along their mate bond. Theron led the vanguard down the narrow switchback that would bring them half a mile beyond the ravine's far lip, Rowan's favored funnel ground. Freya rode close to Isolde, muttering quietly. Rowan probably expects a cornered princess in tears. Let's disappoint him. Gladly, Isolde replied, rolling her shoulders to ease mounting tension. Wind shifted, bringing a new scent, rust, sweat, and pine breath tinged with resentment. Rogue wolves. Theron raised a hand. The column halted. Hooves pawed nervously. Words spread along link and mouth. Enemies approach. Across an open stretch, silhouettes emerged through mist. First dozens, then scores. Rowan took point astride a lean gray wolf horse hybrid in half shift, amber eyes glowing feral. A black banner trailed behind him, emblazoned with a broken fang over bleached skull, a rogue symbol. Flanking him, unfamiliar alphas of lesser rogue packs strutted with barely leashed bloodlust. Rowan's mocking laugh drifted on the morning hush. Blackwell, you lead lambs to slaughter, and you hide behind a silver-blood witch. Theron urged Nightfall forward a single pace. Your quarrel is with me, yet here you come, dragging packs already lost to shadows. Rowan flicked his gaze toward Isolde, then upward to archers lining both ridges. I'll have what fate promised, or I'll feast on your hearts, hand over the princess and break this nonsense truce. Isolde answered before Theron. You will starve before feasting on Shadowfang honor. Whispers rippled among Rowan's wolves. They had not expected the Silverblood princess to ride beside her supposed captor like an equal. Rowan's smile thinned. You betray your blood. Do you know how many of your kin died beneath his sword? You threaten more, she shot back. Step down now and spare them. An arrow whistled from the right ridge, loosed by a rogue eager to prove loyalty. It clattered short of Theron's formation. Without instruction, archers on both ridges angled arrows, but held. Theron's growl coaxed mind-link calm through their lines. He leaned sideways, voice low to Isolde. Words alone won't sway him. We press the plan. She nodded. Astra's mind brushed Karis. Guard her soul, while I guard her body. Karis's approval thundered. Theron raised his sword high enough to catch first dawn light. Between heartbeats, Shadowfang archers released a warning volley, shafts thudding into soil at Rowan's mount's hooves. Dust billowed. Rogue rank shifted, snarls mixing with shouts. Then everything erupted. Rowan's front wave charged, howling, but were forced into Theron's trap. The funnel valley narrowed between steep ridges now bristling with Shadowfang and Silverblood archers. Volley upon volley rained, felling rogues before they crossed halfway. Still, pockets broke through, clashing with Theron's vanguard in brutal melee. Isolde dismounted to fight on foot, Freya at her flank. Her silver-bladed shortsword flashed beneath the rising sun, Astra lending reflex and uncanny speed. Each parry and thrust felt guided by two minds dancing in perfect accord. She felled a brute twice her size, then pivoted to block a second attacker, pulse hammering but breath steady. Across the crush, Theron cut a path toward Rowan, nightfall rearing beneath him. Sparks flew where steel struck steel. Rowan, half shifted into a monstrous form, the bastard blend of wolf strength and human dexterity, clashed blades with feral exuberance. Their duel churned dust and blood. Karis's fury surged, fueling Theron's every blow. Rowan answered with snarling glee, powered by hate, and the smug certainty that his rogues outnumbered defenders 2-1. Isolde caught glimpses of the battle, Mara darting among fallen of both packs, sealing wounds with swift skill, Elias rallying soldiers to plug a breach, Helios standing atop a ridge rock, staff raised, murmuring ancient chants that sent rogue wolves stumbling confused for vital moments. Rowan broke Theron's guard with a brutal upswing, carving a shallow furrow across the Alpha's chest plate. Karis's pain rippled along the matebond. Isolde gasped, staggered. Sensing her distress, Theron's eyes flashed silver rage. He rebutted with a pommel strike that cracked Rowan's jaw. Blood sprayed. Rowan laughed through crimson teeth. "Your heart beats for her," he taunted. "I can taste it." "If you tasted loyalty, you'd choke," Theron snarled. Rowan lunged again but found his sword checked not by steel but by a gleaming arrow that buried deep in his thigh, the shot loosed from Freya's bow. The rogue Gamma stumbled, fury painting his features. Before he could recover, Isolde darted forward, blade level with his throat. "Yield," she demanded. Rowan's gaze flicked to Theron, panting. "Kill me if courage allows." Theron advanced, sword raised. Yet in that heartbeat Karis whispered to Astra, and both wolves agreed. They required not vengeance, but example. Theron slammed the pommel onto Rowan's temple. The rogue crumpled unconscious at Isolde's feet. Rogue lines wavered without their leader. Elias signaled. Horns echoed. Archers loosed final volleys overhead, arrows peppering ground inches from rogue claws. Surrounded, facing archers on ridges and Theron's tightening infantry, the ragged allies dropped weapons, snarls fading to haggard breaths. It ended as swiftly as it had flared. Sunrise crept higher, gilding crimson-stained earth. Healers flowed among the fallen. Captains herded prisoners into makeshift pens. Theron wiped sweat and blood from his brow, crossing the churned field to where Isolde knelt checking victims regardless of allegiance. "You fought as Luna already," he said, voice rough with awe. She stood, touching the new dent in his breastplate. "You bleed where I bleed." Her fingers trembled against metal. "Let me see it tended." "After yours," he insisted, noting shallow cuts along her forearm and the blood that soaked Freya's sleeve where an arrow had grazed. Freya waved off concern with a grin, though pain pinched her eyes. "Merely a scratch. Saved my new dress from boredom." Elias approached, Rowan slung unconscious over a pair of guards' shoulders. "Cellars reinforced with silver bars await him." Theron nodded. "Place him there under dual watch. He'll stand trial before the council of both packs." Isolde's eyebrows lifted. "Both?" "We stand together now," he answered simply. She felt the truth ring through their bond, warm as sun over water. Astra hummed satisfaction. Kairos lay weary, but content inside Theron's thoughts. Helios arrived, staff tapping dried grass. The blood moon threatened, but dawn chooses her children. Hold this dawn tight, or lose the next. Theron dipped his chin, acknowledging wisdom. "We will." Hours later, after transporting wounded and reinforcing flanks, Theron gathered his senior captains, Silverblood Alpha Council members, and Isolde beneath the battered but intact Great Hall roof. Lucius, lashed to a litter but upright, insisted on attending, a bandaged warrior in spirit if not body. Theron addressed the assembly. "Rowan's revolt is ended, but healing mistrust requires more than shackles." He took Isolde's hand, raising it for all to see. This bond unites Shadowfang and Silverblood. Tonight, after moonrise, I will formally recognize Isolde Ravencrest as my mate and Luna before both packs. Murmurs rippled. Some joyful surprise, some wary. Most relieved. Lucius's weathered face softened. He managed a stiff inclination of the head. Freya whooped, ignoring disapproving glances. Mara clapped once. Tears gleaming. Elias proclaimed with calm authority, "Preparations will be swift. All wolves, Shadowfang, Silverblood, and any willing freed rogues will witness the ceremony." Theron turned to Isolde, voice dropping. "Will you stand beside me by choice before our packs?" Emotion welled hot behind her eyes. Hope, gratitude, love. She drew a steady breath. "I choose you, and the dawn we forged together." Their palms pressed, a hush swept the hall as bright silver light shimmered over their joined hands, visible confirmation of the matebond's full acceptance. Wolves gasped. Astonishment melted into awe. Helios's voice rose, echoing across timber beams. Prophecy breathes fulfilled. Scar meets scar, blood meets blood, packs meet peace. Yet even as triumph warmed hearts, Isolde felt a sudden prickling along her nape, a whisper of warning threading the matebond. Astra's ears flattened. Rowan lies in chains, but chains crack. She caught Theron's elbow. "We must double guards on your dungeon." He saw the fear glint and nodded, issuing swift orders along the mind link. Guards clattered away. Lucius beckoned Isolde, voice gravel rough. "I've misjudged him," he admitted. "Let this union end generations of darkness." Isolde squeezed his hand, tears gathering. "I hope so, Father." As afternoon faded, preparations hummed through the keep. Lanterns strung across courtyards, banners mended, musicians summoned. Healers stitched wounds and brushed mud from cloaks. Wolves of both packs, even some erstwhile enemies, busied themselves with tasks, energy high with anticipation. In a quiet alcove, Mara cleaned the cut on Isolde's forearm, humming soothing notes. "You'll wear silver," she said, "a color of moonlight and mercy." Freya lounged nearby, bandage fresh across her shoulder. "And I'll wear armor. Someone must keep admirers from mobbing our new Luna." Mara laughed. "Your bow will glint nicely by torchlight." Isolde's cheeks flushed at the gentle teasing, but warmth flooded her. Family, she thought. Not born, but chosen amid ash. Twilight slipped in. Torches flared on parapets. Theron approached, silhouetted by the ruddy glow. He wore dark leathers cleaned of gore, a silver clasp shaped like twin wolves at his collar. His eyes found Isolde's, and the hall's commotion faded into heartbeat silence. "We stand on a hinge of history," he murmured. She stepped into his arms, breath a soft exhale against his chest. "We stand together. That is history." Karis and Astra touched minds, sharing contented calm. Hours yet remained until moonrise, but already hope glimmered like starfire. Dusk surrendered to night in a breath of lavender and rose. Along Shadowfang's inner courtyard, lanterns bloomed, pools of gold chasing away the memory of scarlet morning. Wolves from both packs filed in, murmuring with tentative excitement while musicians tuned wooden pipes whose notes floated like pale moths on the darkening air. Under the watchful moon, cedar platforms had been hastily erected around a wide stone circle. At its heart, a low brazier waited to carry sacred flame, symbol of oaths, older than any living alpha. Isolde stood in the tower's anteroom, draped in a gown Mara had resurrected from old Silverblood silks. Where once silver threads had embroidered her family crest, Mara had unpicked and rewoven them into a new emblem. Two wolves circling a single moon. The design gleamed at her waist like a blessing. Freya, dressed in supple leather trimmed with rose-colored beads, twisted Isolde's hair into a loose braid and tucked sprigs of moonwort among the strands. "Breathe," Freya murmured. "Your knees are trembling." "Yes, well, the entire keep is watching." Isolde tried to still the butterfly riot in her stomach. Astra prowled inside her mind with restless pride. We do not tremble at dawn's edge, we glow, little moon. Mara entered carrying a basin. Time to wash away the last of battle, she said. Warm water scented with lavender soothed Isolde's scraped knuckles and wrists. Mara dabbed healing salve along the thin line on her neck. This will fade soon, but if you wish, keep the scar. Proof of standing your ground. I think I will, Isolde said softly. Scars remind us we survived. Footsteps sounded beyond the door, Lucius on cane accompanied by Elder Helios. He moved with measured caution, ribs strapped tight. Seeing Isolde, he paused, awe dimming the pain in his eyes. You are your mother's fire, and my iron will, he said, voice thick. Go and forge peace. She embraced him gently. His hand lingered at her cheek. Tonight I give my blessing, Freya too. Your choice may heal wounds swords never could. Helios tapped his cane. The moon waits. Do not keep her. Freya squeezed Isolde's shoulders. I will watch from the front. If your knees buckle, I will shout embarrassing tales until you laugh. The threat coaxed a chuckle and eased taut nerves. Guards opened the anteroom doors, revealing a torchlit passage arching toward the courtyard. Stirrings rose outside, hundreds of wolves shifting, minds buzzing along shared links. Isolde drew a steady breath and stepped forward, cloak of white fur brushing marble tiles. Each heartbeat pulsed through the matebond, echoing Theron's readiness. Beneath the open vault of sky, Theron waited near the brazier, flanked by Elias and elders from both packs. He wore polished dark leathers and a mantle of black wolf fur over silver-threaded pauldrons. At his hip lay a ceremonial dagger forged from meteor iron, handle wrapped in braided leather. Nightfall stamped behind him, but for this rite, Theron stood unarmed save tradition and faith. When Isolde emerged from the arch, hush fell over the courtyard. Lanterns flickered in sudden drafts, and even distant owls quieted as though witnessing something inviolate. Theron felt her presence before he saw her, the bond singing like a plucked harp string. She crossed the courtyard between two rows of young sentries, one Shadowfang, one Silverblood, whose faces shone equal parts awe and hope. Every step drew her closer to the pulse thrumming inside Theron's chest. Karis sat proudly within, plume tail sweeping invisible dust. Our Luna comes. The pack's heart steadies. Elders signaled, musicians ceased their preludes. Mara stopped at Isolde's side to adjust a slipping ribbon, then withdrew. Lucius, leaning on cane, led her final paces until she and Theron stood mere breaths apart. Lucius placed his daughter's hand into Theron's, meeting the Alpha's gaze. Guard her soul. Lead with her strength, he said, voice hoarse but resolute. I swear by Fang and Flame, Theron replied. Lucius stepped aside. Helios lifted a cup of clear water, speaking words so old the language had cracked into near-forgotten syllables. He offered Isolde a sip, then Theron, signifying the joining of rivers beneath one moon. Next, Elias set a brand to the brazier. Flames leapt, sparks twirling up like newborn stars. Theron and Isolde moved to the brazier's edge. He drew the meteor dagger, touching the flat of the blade to his palm, a bead of crimson weld. Without hesitation, Isolde pressed her own palm to steel, silver blood bright beneath lantern glow. Together they reached and let twin drops fall into the fire. Orange tongues flared green, then settled into steady warmth. Isolde's voice rose clear and steady. I, Isolde Ravencrest, stand by choice at your side. My heart is your shield, my strength your refuge. In dawn and dusk, in hunt and home, I walk with you. Theron's amber gaze shimmered. I, Theron Blackwell, take your hand by oath and by the moon's decree. Your courage is my guide, your hope, my horizon. In shadow and storm, I stand with you. Fire hissed as wind stirred. Wolves among the audience lifted muzzles, howls building in layered harmony, Shadowfang's deep-throated timbre interwoven with Silverblood's resonant soprano. Together they sang approval into the night until the stone walls echoed with a chorus not heard in generations. As the final howl tapered, Theron lifted Isolde's hand to his lips. The bond blazed so fiercely that for a heartbeat every lantern guttered, then sprang brighter, as though reflecting their joined spirits. Karis loosed a triumphant roar inside Theron. Astra's joyous yip answered. Freya whooped, hurling a bouquet of wildflowers into the air. They tumbled like pale comets across the glow. For a breath everything shimmered. Hope as tangible as dew on a new dawn. Celebration kindled soon after. Long trestled tables laden with venison, spiced roots, and orchard cider lined the courtyard's edges. Wolves passed mugs, laughter spilling between packs. Harpers bowed strings. Flautists danced notes over clapping paws. Children from both packs chased one another round pillars, their giggles rising above music. Isolde moved among well-wishers, cheeks flushed warm. She greeted Shadowfang sentries who'd once glared at her in suspicion. They dipped heads respectfully now. Older silver-blood warriors clasped Theron's forearm in cautious solidarity. Mara circulated with honeycakes, pressing one into every open palm. Even Elias cracked a rare grin as Freya teased him about his stiff dance steps, dragging him into a spinning reel. Above the merriment, dusk-to-night mist drifted across battlements, cool reminder that danger always lurked. Theron directed extra sentry rotations by mind link. Karis patrolled mines for ripples of deceit. Rowan's cell sat deep beneath northern towers, ringed with quadruple guards and barred by 3 layers of silver lattice hammered into stone. Yet still, caution thrummed. Isolde stood at the central fountain, dipping fingers into cool water made radiant by firelight. Theron approached from behind, slipping arms around her waist. She relaxed into him, tilting head back onto his shoulder. "Wolves are full," she said. "Full bellies breed softer hearts. Soft hearts lead to brave decisions." He brushed lips against her braid. "I've never feared battle," he admitted. "But tonight I tremble at how thoroughly you undo me." "I'd call that payback," she teased. He chuckled, a sound rare and precious. "Then keep collecting." Their shared peace shattered as distant horns blared, sharp and urgent, a pattern signaling breach. The courtyard hushed. Warriors froze mid-toast. Theron stiffened, releasing Isolde. Mind link alerts flared. Guards down at Rowan's cell doors. Elias sprinted toward them, sword drawn. Alarms from the north tower. Rowan's cell breached, unknown assailants heading east wall. Freya armed an arrow in heartbeat. Someone infiltrated during celebration. Theron barked orders across the link, secure Isolde, all captains to pursuit grid 19. He turned to gather her close, but Isolde met his gaze, jaw set. "I fight beside you." Karis and Astra echoed mutual resolve. "Then stay near," Theron allowed, pressing a quick kiss to her forehead before mounting nightfall, dragging her up behind him. Freya vaulted onto her dun, Elias astride a dark bay. A knot of Shadowfang riders raced through the gate in a thunder of hooves. Moonlit forest swallowed them. Ahead, torchlight flickered where fleeing shapes darted between oaks. Sentries lay incapacitated, shot by small silver-tipped darts, sleeping rather than dead. Clever infiltration. Among dark trunks, a cloaked trio guided Rowan, battered shackles still clamped but chain severed. One hooded figure lifted a blowpipe toward Theron's group. Freya loosed an arrow that skewered his forearm, knocking the pipe away. Rowan stumbled, saw Theron and Isolde approach, and let out an animal snarl. "You wed a witch while your pack bleeds." Theron reined Nightfall hard, dismounting mid-stride. Isolde slid down beside him, sword already drawn. Elias and Freya flanked. Rowan's rescuers, a pair of rogue alphas and the wounded dart wielder, spread into defensive arc. One lunged at Isolde, short blade slicing. She parried and riposted, Astra lending speed. Freya's arrow grazed the rogue's shoulder, giving Isolde opening to knock his weapon free. Theron met Rowan's charge, swords clashing in moonflare. Rowan fought with renewed desperation, pain sharpening every swing, yet fatigue dogged him. Silver shackles sapped strength. Karis flooded Theron's limbs with unyielding ferocity. In 6 heartbeats, Rowan's blade flew and Theron slammed him against a trunk, point hovering at throat. A breath of silence. Rowan spat blood. "Kill me or forever dread my shadow." Isolde stepped forward, hand on Theron's arm. "Let justice claim him under moonlight and witness." Her voice, steady, compassionate, cut through Rowan's rage. Theron held Rowan's gaze. "No more blood tonight." He bound Rowan's wrists behind with iron chain manacles specially forged to dampen rogue magic, then called 2 guards to drag him back. One rogue alpha fled deeper into forest. Elias pursued with a pair of swift runners. The blowpipe rogue knelt, bleeding, surrendered to Freya. She collected weapons and bound him. When all threats contained, they guided prisoners back under torchlit escort. Along the path, Rowan hurled final insults. Love softens teeth, teeth lose prey. Theron ignored him. Karis lay calm. Hunt complete. Isolde's hand found his, squeezing reassurance. Back inside Shadowfang walls, Rowan was secured, this time in a cell layered with wolfsbane mortar and triple soldier watch. Theron lingered outside the iron bars, meeting Rowan's glare. "You will face tribunal at dawn's 3rd rising. Pray. The moon pities fools." Rowan hissed yet dropped his gaze. In the quiet that followed, lanterns glowed lower. Feast fire damped to embers. Wolves resumed subdued celebration, no longer with raucous revelry, but in solidarity forged through new trial. Theron guided Isolde to a tower balcony overlooking the lake. Cool breeze ruffled their cloaks. Distant constellations glittered like spilled frost. "You could have killed him," she said. "Death ends threat but breeds legend," he replied. "Justice witnessed breaks cycles." She studied his profile, strong lines softened by starlight. "Your ruthlessness tempered by mercy draws me more than power ever could." He turned, cupping her face. "Your courage forged my mercy." They kissed, slow and reverent. Heat coiled once more, but tonight exhaustion gentled it into sweet ache rather than urgent flame. He led her inside a small adjoining chamber lined with tapestries, his private refuge since youth. A solitary hearth glowed banked coals. They sat before it, boots discarded, shoulders touching. Both wolves lay content in shared mental den. Isolde traced the meteor dagger now sheathed at his side. "Stars forged this blade," she mused. "And forged our fate," he said, twining fingers with hers. "Stars and scars and stubborn hearts." Outside, early dawn tinged the horizon with faint gray. Whispering wind carried scent of fresh pine and distant blossoms. New beginning. He rose, drawing Isolde up. "Sleep eluded us last night. Let me give you rest." She followed him to the broad bed behind a silk curtain. They lay fully clothed, save boots, limbs entangled, pulse steadying into unified rhythm. He brushed hair from her eyes, voice soft. "I will guard your dreams." Her smile glowed in fire's dying light. Dreams are safe when shared. Sleep folded over them like wings. Through bond and breath they found a peace deeper than silence. At sunrise, bells tolled to summon tribunal. Wolves assembled in the great hall, but Rowan's rage fractured beneath solemn judgment. Exile beyond the northern glacier lands, packless and branded. No blood spilled. No legends born. Only the lesson that strength married to mercy guides stronger than fear. Later, Lucius stood beneath fluttering banners, handing Theron a scroll inscribed with Silverblood's Treaty of Unity. Theron signed with iron quill, then passed it to Isolde. She pressed signet to wax. 2 wolves, 1 moon, sealed. Cheers erupted. Drums boomed vibrant. Children chased each other, and somewhere Freya taught Silverblood cubs Shadowfang dance steps while Elias pretended stern scowl. Helios watched from balcony edge, eyes reflecting dawn. "The scar no longer aches," he whispered to himself. "The world tilts toward peace. Until new storms call." That night, Isolde and Theron returned to their moonlit lake. They walked barefoot on cool grass, recounting moments of courage and folly. She splashed him with water. He retaliated, laughter pealing. Under argent sky they shed fears. He worshipped the curve of her shoulder, mouth warm over the healed scar. She traced every old wound on his chest with lips like a promise. Their bodies met in slow worship. Consent whispered between heartbeats, wolves crooning lullabies. When they lay spent upon moss, stars wheeled overhead and fate hummed content. In the hush, Theron twined their fingers. Tomorrow we build. A future from ruin, she agreed. Together. His voice held quiet certainty. Karis and Astra curled around their hearts. Dawn would bring tasks, negotiations, healing. But tonight, bound by moon and choice, they found what war had tried to steal. Love worth every scar. Isolde drifted awake to birdsong threading through open shutters and the soft cadence of Theron's breathing beside her. A pale wash of dawn light filtered across the firs, gilding the curve of his bare shoulder and the strong line of his jaw where dark stubble shadowed skin she had memorized with lips and fingertips. Warmth pooled in her chest. Never had she felt so completely surrounded by safety, nor so acutely aware of how fragile that feeling could be. She lay still, studying the rise and fall of his chest, the faint flutter of lashes against his cheek, the way one lock of sable hair hung almost boyishly over his brow. Astra stirred inside her mind, tail thumping softly in wordless contentment. He guards us even in sleep. Isolde smiled and lifted a hand, brushing the unruly lock back. At her touch, Theron sighed and shifted, arms tightening around her waist. Amber eyes blinked open and focused, first hazy with sleep, then brightening with the kind of tenderness he offered only to her. "Morning, little moon," he murmured, gravel rough. "Morning, my alpha." The title slipped out wreathed in warmth rather than obligation. She leaned forward, pressing a light kiss to the corner of his mouth. "Did you rest at all?" "I rested because you breathed beside me." His thumb traced slow circles along the curve of her hip. "Strange, isn't it? I've led armies on 4 hours rest, yet one night with you feels worth decades of sleep." Her cheeks warmed. Flatterer. Truth-teller. He guided her hand to his heartbeat. It thudded beneath her palm, steady and sure. "This was chaos once. You quiet it." She placed her other palm over his heart as well, covering it entirely, and let the bond hum through her fingertips. "You quiet mine, too." Karis rumbled a pleased greeting to Astra, and her wolf chuffed in reply. Isolde pressed her brow to Theron's. "I could stay here forever." "So could I," he admitted, then sighed. "But your duties wait. My Luna has a realm to meet." "And you'll be haunting corridors to make sure I don't faint?" "At a respectable distance." He smiled, but the protective gleam in his eyes told her distance would be relative. "Come. The keep will want their Queen of Dawn." She laughed softly and allowed him to roll away, retrieving a robe of dove-gray silk embroidered with twin wolves circling a moon. He draped it over her shoulders before rising to dress. For a moment, she simply watched him, the long lines of his back, the network of scars that told stories he hadn't fully shared. Gratitude swelled. He was alive. He was hers. She was his. When they stepped into the corridor, Mara awaited with Freya, the two women already animated in quiet debate. Mara's healer's robe fluttered around her ankles. Freya wore fitted archery leathers, hair braided back and threaded with the moonwort. "You slept through sunrise," Mara whispered conspiratorially as they approached, handing Isolde a steaming mug of honeyed tea. "Half the keep's acolytes have been pacing for an hour." Isolde took a sip, savoring warmth. "Half the keep's acolytes will learn patience." Freya's grin curved wicked. Patience is thin when rumors of certain celebrations drift through shutters. Isolde's face ignited. "Freya." "What?" Freya flicked a mock-innocent glance toward Theron. "Our alpha is a very thorough man. I'd be disappointed if he left the new Luna unsatisfied." Theron arched a brow. I could stand to teach certain archers what thorough means on the training field if their tongues run too free. Freya mimed zipping her lips, but her eyes sparkled. Mara cleared her throat. Before anyone teaches anything, the kitchens prepared a welcome feast, and Elder Helios asked to bless the Luna's first day. Isolde's nerves fluttered anew. She set her empty cup on a side table and squared her shoulders. Lead the way. Theron offered his arm, and together they walked to the grand hall. Servants had strewn the entry with late-blooming night roses, white petals glowing against dark stone. Wolves from both packs lined the walls, offering bows or nods of respect. Elder Helios waited beneath a tapestry depicting the twin moon emblem, his silver gaze warm. He extended a carved oak staff. At its tip, a crystal orb shimmered. Strengthen union, lighten duality, he intoned, tapping the floor once. The moon sees two hearts. One beat. Isolde tipped her head. And two packs, one piece. Helios's smile deepened. May dawn bless your steps, child. A steward appeared bearing a silver basin. Mara guided Isolde to dip her fingers and anoint her brow with scented oil, her official act as Luna. Applause rustled like soft rain. Freya nudged her afterward. See? You didn't faint. I might yet, Isolde joked, though the sight of so many watching eyes made her stomach flutter. Theron sensed her nerves gently sliding his hand down her back. Breathe. She did, inhaling the cedar pine scent unique to him, and the world steadied. Morning unspooled in a tumble of introductions, sentry captains pledging loyalty, Silverblood elders thanking her for steadying new alliances, Shadowfang pups presenting wild flowers. Freya shadowed her like a protective flame. Mara smoothed formalities with quiet grace. Throughout, Isolde noted Theron's presence, a touch on her elbow when she hesitated, a proud gleam whenever she spoke with confidence. Near midday, she paused in the courtyard's herb garden, where Mara cultivated cures. Sunbeams struck her braids moonwort sprigs. She lifted a hand, inhaling the earthy fragrance of sage. Footsteps crunched behind. She turned to find Theron carrying a small wooden box bound with indigo ribbon. For you, he said. She loosened the ribbon. Inside lay a delicate silver circlet, twin wolves chasing a crescent moon, mirroring the emblem on her gown. Tiny opals glimmered in their eyes. It belonged to my mother, Theron explained softly. She wore it when she accepted my father's oath. If you wish, it is yours. Emotion rose like tide. It's beautiful, are you certain? She hoped I would give it to the one who'd share my path. She would be proud. Isolde's vision blurred. Then I'm honored. She allowed him to settle the circlet upon her brow, fingers brushing her temple. Energy rippled along the matebond, warm and bright. Freya called from across a row of time. Well, if tears start, I'm ruining my eyeliner. But even her teasing quavered with affection. Isolde laughed, dabbing her eyes. You'll get no tears, only gratitude. She kissed Theron's cheek, ignoring curious glances from passing warriors. He bent to murmur against her ear. I have something else to show you before night falls. Meet me by the north spiral after midday. Intrigue sparked. I will. Shortly after, Isolde completed a final circuit of duties, meeting quartermasters, approving joint training regimens, and ensuring the infirmary had supplies. When noon bells pealed, Mara intercepted her with a knowing smile. Your alpha awaits. Isolde hurried up the north spiral staircase and found Theron in a narrow corridor she'd never explored. He pushed open an ancient oak door, gesturing her inside. The hidden library soared 3 stories high, all honeyed stone and arched windows overlooking the lake. Dust motes drifted where sunbeams pierced stained glass depicting constellations. Shelves groaned under leather-bound tomes, plush rugs covered the floor, faded jewels from bygone eras. Isolde's breath caught. It's glorious. My refuge, he said, closing the door. No one enters without my leave. I want you to know every corner of my soul. So we start here. She walked slowly, fingertips gliding along spines. A bound atlas lay on a reading desk. Beside it, a half-finished charcoal sketch of the lake under moonlight. Did you draw this? He shrugged, suddenly shy. When sleep fled, I tried capturing the calm water brings. She traced the pencil strokes. It's beautiful. I had no idea you drew. There's much we still don't know of each other, he admitted, stepping close. I carry scars I've never named. But here, I'll speak them, if you'll listen. Her pulse quickened, always. They settled on a low divan beneath a window. He started haltingly. Memories of losing siblings to border skirmishes, of shouldering alpha mantle too young when plague claimed his mother and grief silenced his father. As he spoke, the hardness she'd first known melted into raw humanity. The boy who nearly drowned, the man who feared repeating failures of those before him. Isolde listened, threading fingers through his, occasionally tracing circles over knuckles when words caught in his throat. In turn, she shared nights spent hiding from silver-blood politics, the crushing expectation to be perfect Alpha's daughter, the guilt of surviving when friends perished. Her voice cracked only once, recalling the day her childhood pet fox had been killed in a border trap, small grief mirroring larger ones. Theron pressed her hand to his lips, silent promise shimmering in his gaze. Sun shifted, casting colored patterns across them. Not once did they move apart. When silence settled gentle between heartbeats, Theron brushed hair from her face and kissed her, soft at first, then deepening as the bond warmed. She answered, cupping his jaw. The world hushed to the slide of lips, the hush of breath. When they parted, she rested foreheads together. I love you, she whispered, marveling how easy the words came. His exhale trembled. And I you, my heart. Karis howled joyous affirmation. Astra trilled harmony. They left the library hand in hand. At dusk, lanterns bobbed along the lake shore, leading to a secluded blanket set with silver plates and a single bottle of elderflower wine. Isolde laughed softly. You prepared this. I live to outdo myself, Theron said, pouring 2 glasses. They reclined beneath willows, savoring sweet fruit and spice cheese. The water mirrored a sky slowly bruising with indigo. He traced the circlet on her brow. You wear it as though born to. She swirled wine in her glass. I was born for more than war, I think. Peace suits you. He brushed her cheek. And peace suits me when you're beside. Lantern light flickered gold on their faces, on the silks of her gown and the dark sheen of his hair. Conversation meandered. Future festivals uniting packs, renovation of border villages, the dream of pups racing through orchard rows. Each topic wove deeper threads of intimacy until silence descended once more, charged, expectant. Isolde set her glass aside, reaching for him first. Fingers twined in his hair, pulling him down. Mouth met mouth and heat flared, liquid and sure. He whispered her name against her lips, and she answered with his, casting aside thoughts of duty until only the rhythm of 2 hearts remained. Clothes loosened, breath quickened, and when he pressed her gently into blankets strewn with petals, she arched to meet him. Consent flickered in their joined gaze, and then words dissolved into sighs and soft cries, as moonlight anointed skin with silver. Karis and Astra crossed minds, tails entwined, basking in shared elation. When their bodies stilled, Theron wrapped his cloak around them both, tucking her against his chest. They lay listening to crickets and distant keep bells tolling midnight. At length she whispered, Happiness scares me. He stroked her hair. Because it can be taken. I lost everything once. Not everything, he corrected. You found me. Her eyes shimmered. You found me first. He kissed her brow. I will lose sleep guarding this happiness. That is my promise. Soft footsteps approached. Mara's voice drifted through trees. Forgive me, but urgent message. She halted politely a few yards away. eyes fixed skyward to spare them embarrassment. Elias returned from patrol with bruised ribs. Minor, but he insists speaking before both of you rest. Isolde tugged Cloak tighter. Let him come. Elias emerged, gingerly touching his side. Rogue scouts near the eastern ridge. Only 3, but they fled toward the marsh. We suspect Rowan sympathizers test our borders. Theron's expression hardened. Gather trackers at dawn, we ride out. Isolde sat up, hair spilling down her back. I'm coming. He opened his mouth to protest, saw determination, and inclined his head. We ride together. Mara's gaze darted between them and Elias, warm amusement softening her sigh. I'll have poultices ready, for ribs and for stubborn alphas. Elias managed a wry smile and murmured thanks. Their hands brushed when she passed him a small vial. Color rose to her cheeks before she marched back toward the keep. Elias watched her go, intrigue glinting. Isolde noted it with quiet delight. Perhaps love blooms everywhere tonight. Let it, Theron said, pressing a final kiss to her shoulder before helping her dress. The world could use fields of it. A hush lingered in the pre-dawn corridors as Isolde laced her riding leathers, the scent of leather and resin mingling with the faint tang of lamp oil. Freya leaned against the doorframe, buckling her bracers. Moonlight slanted through arrow slits, striping the stone floor. You look ready to conquer a kingdom, Freya said, fastening a final strap. Or at least scare 3 rogues out of their tails. Let's hope it's the latter. Isolde tucked a throwing knife into her boot, fingers steady despite the early hour. Astra padded within her thoughts, steady as a heartbeat. We ride with purpose, little moon. Fear not the dark. A light knock preceded Mara's entrance. She carried a small leather pouch and a bundle of white cloth. Poultices for bruises and shallow cuts, and a fresh shirt for Elias, if he admits needing one. She hesitated, then clasped Isolde's forearm. Return safe. Isolde hugged her briefly. We will. She saw the worry in Mara's eyes for her brother, the glint lingering after last night's shy exchange with Elias. Watch the keep, and your heart, she whispered. Mara's cheeks colored. It seems contagious. Bootsteps approached. Theron filled the doorway, dark hair damp from a quick wash, eyes bright despite little sleep. Silver pauldrons rested over a charcoal tunic, and the meteor dagger hung at his belt. The horses are ready. Trackers, wait, at the east gate. Isolde crossed to him, smoothing his collar. You've eaten? A slice of bread. He slid an arm around her waist, pressing a swift kiss to her temple. We'll feast once the border is quiet. They descended the spiral, cloaks flaring. In the courtyard, torches sputtered against an indigo sky where first stars faded. Elias stood near nightfall, ribs wrapped, but posture straight. He accepted Mara's pouch with a murmured thanks that drew a soft smile from her before she hurried back inside. Freya swung onto her dun mare. I've arrows enough to pin 3 cowards to a tree, but feel free to leave me a few more. Greedy, Elias teased, though he winced as he mounted. Karis's rumble brushed his mind with gentle admonition. Astra licked it away. Lucius appeared, leaning on a cane but dressed in a light jerkin. Dawn's cool glow paled the scar at his temple. You ride for all of us, he said, voice thin but firm. Bring back peace. Isolde guided her gray closer. Father, rest, please. I rest knowing the future rides with you. He pressed his hand to her booted calf, eyes shining. Elder Helios hovered nearby, staff gleaming faint violet. East wind stirs secrets, he warned in a hush. Watch for whispers, not shouts. Theron acknowledged with a nod. He raised his hand. The gate creaked open. 8 mounted Shadowfang trackers slipped ahead, blending into shadow scented with pine. Nightfall snorted, eager. With Isolde riding abreast on her gray and the rest of their small party, Freya, Elias, and 4 spearwolves, the group passed beneath the portcullis. Beyond the walls, Dawn's chill nipped at cheeks as they followed a deer path toward the marsh where the scouts had vanished. Trees thinned to crooked cedars draped in lycan. Mist clung low, rendering the world ethereal. The only sounds were hoofbeats muffled by damp earth and the quiet clink of harness. Isolde's gaze swept the underbrush. Astra tested air currents, parsing scents of fox and fern, until a sour tang of unwashed fur and tallow pricked her nostrils. Rogues. She flicked a glance at Theron, who nodded. Kairos had tasted it too. They signaled silent halt. Trackers fanned out, scouting ahead. Freya knocked an arrow, eyes narrowed. 3 bodies walk this way, she murmured, pointing to depressions in moss. Weight uneven, one limps. Elias dismounted to study the prints, heading east, toward the abandoned mill. Theron tapped mind-link orders. Split. Encircle. He motioned Isolde to ride with him south of the prints while Elias and Freya flanked north. The wolves moved with near-soundless efficiency, weaving among trees until the sagging outline of the old grain mill emerged through mist. Its broken wheel sagged over stagnant water flecked with cattails. Theron raised a fist. They halted behind a fallen spruce. Low voices drifted from inside the mill, argument tinged with desperation. Told me Blackwell can't risk killing us, he's too busy polishing his Luna. Sneered a rough tenor. Keep your voice down, hissed another. That arrow-mad sneak took Raylin's arm yesterday. We're ghosts, not warriors. A third voice coughed wetly. We need Rowan. He's gone, the first spat. Exile means dead man walking. Isolde's heart pounded. These men clung to Rowan's fading shadow, but had none of his cunning. Still dangerous, though. She rested her palm on a throwing knife. Theron's low mind link reached her. Circle right. Surprise, not slaughter. She nodded. Karis's presence merged with her resolve like strong paws pressing steady ground. Together they glided around the pond, boots splashing silent ripples. She counted 3 rogues through cracks in the mill's wall. 2 standing, 1 seated, cradling an injured leg. Their weapons were rough hatchets, a rusted sword. Desperation hummed. Theron stepped into view first, voice calm. Lay down arms. You're outnumbered and outflanked. The rogue spun. One lifted his sword, but hesitation wavered in his eyes at sight of Isolde stepping beside Theron. Her silver-edged blade gleamed steady. We seek no revenge, she said, projecting clear confidence. Surrender and live. Fight and bleed. The limping rogue eyed her, lip trembling. Rowan abandoned you, Theron cut in, and we did not. Kneel, drop weapons, receive quarter. For a heartbeat, wind hissed through cracked slats. Then the limping man sank to one knee, hatchet falling. The second followed, sword clattering. Only the sneering first rogue hesitated. Rage twisted his features. You think love makes you strong. It makes you fools. He lunged for Theron. Freya's arrow hissed, striking the beam beside his ear. Warning shot. The rogue faltered. In that instant, Isolde moved, sweeping his feet and pressing her blade to his throat. Astra rumbled approval. Enough, she breathed. Yield. His chest heaved. Eyes flicked from her to the arrow to Theron's unreadable face. Weapon clanged to the floor. Elias emerged, binding wrists. We return them to the keep. Healers first. Cells if necessary. Theron met Isolde's gaze across subdued rogues, pride warming amber depths. The fight had been brief but telling. He guided her outside, while trackers secured prisoners. She sheathed her blade and flexed fingers, adrenaline ebbing. You didn't need me. I need you always. He brushed a lock from her cheek. Your voice ended it quicker than steel. Their wolves touched noses in shared thought. Mates command peace. Freya joined, retrieving her arrow. One day I'll hit flesh instead of wood, but speeches worked. She nudged Isolde. Tell the keep. Talk more, shoot less, I guess. Elias hid a smile behind mock sternness. You'll put soldiers out of work. Nonsense, Freya winked. You'll still need me to scare children into finishing chores. Isolde's laugh rang brighter than the morning lark overhead. Relief softened the tension around Theron's eyes. While trackers fashioned sled stretchers for the injured rogue, Theron led Isolde to the pond's edge. Sunlight dappled ripples, catching in droplets on water grasses. He dipped a cloth from his belt pouch into the clear shallows, then knelt to dab a smear of dirt from her jaw. She stilled, touched by the simple intimacy. "If I dirty myself on purpose, will you keep cleaning me?" Endlessly. He kissed the spot dry. Warm waves curled low in her belly despite the chill air. Soft cough behind them. Elias approached holding Mara's ointment. Our medic's prophecy came true. He lifted his tunic to reveal bruising along ribs. Isolde accepted the ointment, fingers careful as she spread cooling salve. Elias winced but didn't pull away. "Your sister would scold me for moving," he muttered. "She'll scold you anyway," Isolde said. "Take the lecture like a warrior." Theron smirked. "Or distraction like a man." Elias flushed, earning twin grins from Freya and Isolde. They mounted for the return trip once prisoners were secured. The rogues rode double-tied on spare mounts, subdued. Along the trail, Isolde's thoughts churned. Small pockets of hate remained, but hope flowered brighter. She slipped her hand across the gap to rest on Theron's thigh. He covered it, thumb stroking circles. When forest thinned and keep towers crowned the horizon in soft gold, Theron slowed nightfall beside a rocky outcrop. "Wait!" He gestured upward along a narrow goat path. Isolde dismounted following as he led her to a high shelf overlooking the valley. From here, both Shadowfang walls and distant Silverblood ridges framed the vista, morning sun painting them in equal light. Wind tugged their cloaks. Theron drew her close. "We will chase these shadows until none remain." She leaned into him. Together. I feared trusting again. Her voice thinned. "Rowan called me fool for love, yet love built this view." He turned her gently, tilting her chin. Rowan never understood strength. He pressed his palm to her sternum, over the quick beat of her heart. "Here is the strongest force I know." Heat prickled her eyes. She set her own hand on his chest. "Here is the truest home." They stood in silence, the valley breathing beneath them. Karis laid head across Astra's paws, content. Hooves clattered behind. Freya guided Elias up the slope, grinning. "You two going to carve hearts into the cliff?" "Not necessary," Isolde said, laughter threading tears. "The valley holds ours." Elias dismounted carefully. "Message from Lucius. Council convenes at noon. They want our report before lunch." Theron nodded, squeezing Isolde's fingers. "We'll ride." As they descended the goat path, she murmured, "When we return tonight, promise me one thing." "Name it." "Let's plant moonward where those rogues surrendered. Something beautiful where fear once stood." He smiled, deep and bright. "Consider it done." They rejoined the procession. The rogues eyed Isolde warily, but without hatred. She offered a nod. Two dipped their heads in return, fragile leaf of trust budding. The sun climbed as they passed through the gate to cheers from sentries. Children pointed at the prisoners. Then at Isolde and Theron riding side by side like dawn and dusk mated into one bright horizon. Wolves parted to free a path, bowing to their Alpha and Luna. Within the courtyard, Mara hurried forward. Her eyes found Elias first. Worry bloomed, then softened at his grin. She pressed the ointment pouch into his hand again, scolding under her breath, yet her fingers lingered on his. Theron dismounted, helping Isolde down. "Council soon, but first, wounds." "I'm unscathed," she said, though muscles ached pleasantly from riding in battle. "Humor me, I plan to apply excessive tenderness." His smirk warmed her all the way to bone. Freya rolled her shoulders. "I'll make sure he doesn't skip his own bandage." "And I'll ensure she doesn't," Isolde shot back, earning a laugh. Mara beckoned them into the infirmary's rear alcove. Lanterns burned low, illuminating cots where yesterday's wounded shadowed, healing. She guided Theron onto a stool, cutting away torn sleeve to reveal a shallow cut on his bicep, fresh from a fleeing rogue's dagger swipe Isolde hadn't seen. She hissed softly, "You kept that hidden." "A scratch," he said. "I had other sights to focus on." His gaze lingered at her throat, still bearing faint mark of previous nights. "Your scars remind me why I fight." Mara cleaned the cut. Isolde pressed gauze, her touch a promise. "Then heal swiftly. We have worlds to build." Outside bells told the 10th hour. Council waited. Theron stood, flexing arm. "Come, little moon. Let's write peace into parchment." She followed him back into sunlight, feeling as if each step left petals rather than footprints. Council convened in the high gallery while noon light angled through narrow windows, painting bands of gold across the circular table, where Shadowfang and Silverblood elders gathered for the first true session of shared governance. Isolde entered beside Theron, the silver circlet anchoring her braid. Murmurs swelled, then fell into expectant silence. Lucius sat opposite Mara and Elias, elder diplomats flanking him. Elder Helios lingered at the rear, staff grounded on flagstones like a metronome. Theron laid parchment maps before them all. "This morning's skirmish proves remnants of Rowan's followers still test our borders. We propose joint patrols, pairs from each pack, rotating every moonrise." He glanced at Isolde, and she nodded, continuing. "Shared duty will knit trust faster than treaties," she said, voice steady but warm. "Rogue sympathizers thrive in shadows between us. We push back those shadows, together." A gray-furred Shadowfang veteran rose. "My hunters will serve." Across the table, a Silverblood scout added his assent. One by one, agreement spiraled outward, like ripples from a stone, until only minor quibbles over rations and routes remained. Elias efficiently assigned captains. Mara offered medical stations at neutral waypoints. Lucius tapped his cane. "Let us also exchange apprentices. Healers can learn new salves. Smiths new forging patterns. This keeps peace more than swords." Applause ruffled the chamber. Helios lifted his staff. "When rivers share water, valleys bloom." His cryptic smile lingered on Isolde before he drifted away. By the hour's end, a parchment twice as wide as the table bore fresh ink seals, wolf sigils stamped side by side. Theron pressed his signet, then handed the iron stamp to Isolde. She sealed beside him, heart swelling. As the wax cooled, Lucius rose with effort and placed his seal directly beneath theirs. "Bloodlines meet, so let blood cease," he proclaimed. Elders echoed assent, and conversation shifted to harvest allotments and winter preparedness. When the final quill settled, hunger hummed through the hall. Servants delivered platters of roasted boar drizzled with honey sap, nut cakes, and herb-laced root mash. Voices softened into warm chatter. Isolde found herself between Mara and Freya while Theron conferred with two Shadowfang captains a few seats away. Across from her, Elias sipped cider, cheeks flushed under Mara's soft gaze. Freya leaned close. "Look at those two." She nodded toward the healer and Beta, who'd slipped into quiet conversation about setting up a larger infirmary wing. Mara's hand brushed Elias's forearm as she spoke. He didn't flinch as earlier, but smiled in a way that bared unfamiliar dimples. Isolde whispered back, "Think I should meddle?" "Absolutely, we owe them a shove." Freya winked. Mara noticed their whispers. "Plotting again?" she asked, cheeks coloring. "Praising your bedside manner," Freya teased, earning a soft laugh. Lunch wound down. Counselors dispersed. Lucius retired to rest, and Helios vanished to meditate beneath his raven-carved arch. Theron crossed the floor toward Isolde, and her pulse leapt though they'd barely been apart. Karis brushed Astra's flank playfully. "Ready for solitude, little moon?" The afternoon stretched warm and still. Theron guided Isolde through halls she'd traversed only in glimpses, down a winding stair lit by crystal sconces to a vaulted bathing chamber lined in moon-gray marble. Steam curled from a central pool fed by hot springs. Lanterns waited unlit, but blue glowstones embedded in walls glimmered. "I promise tenderness," Theron murmured, unlatching his cloak. Isolde's breath caught. Exhaustion knotted her shoulders, yet melted under the humid air. "It's beautiful," she whispered, fingertips tracing the pool's rim. He approached, shrugging free his leather jerkin, revealing linen shirt stretched over broad shoulders. "Allow me." Gently he unfastened the circlet, setting it on a stone pedestal. One by one, laces loosened and her jerkin eased away. When his fingers brushed bare skin at her neck, warmth flared down her spine. She turned, helping ease his shirt over his head, palms gliding across taut muscle. A new bruise marred his ribs. She brushed it with feather kisses. He hissed softly, not from pain, but from her tenderness, then captured her wrist, pressing her hand against his heart. Beat thundered steady, echoing through their bond. "You are home," he said gruffly. She smiled, sliding fingertips up to his jaw. "And you are North Star." Leaning in, she kissed him. Slow, exploratory, savoring. The bath chamber walls blurred. Only his scent of pine and embers filled her senses. Astra nudged Karis, urging calm before passion overtook them too sharply. Clothes pooled to marble and they stepped into the water, heat cupping them in silken swirls. He guided her deeper until water buoyed limbs and steam kissed faces. She draped arms over his shoulders, skin slick beneath her palms. His hands traced her waist, patient, reverent. Eyes locked, they floated, breath mingling. "Thank you for trusting me with your scars," she whispered. "They're softer since your lips found them." He brushed knuckles down her ribs. She shivered, heart stuttering. Desire simmered but remained gentle, waves lapping shoreline instead of crashing. She bent, pressing kisses along his collarbone. He exhaled shaky sighs. They washed one another, soap scented with lavender and cedar sliding over sore muscles. For long minutes only, water's whisper filled the space. When they left, she felt new, smoothed like pebble, long tumbled. He wrapped her in a towel, then himself, and led to a heated stone bench. Sitting, he drew her onto his lap, towel gaping at her thigh. She straddled him, nose brushing his. Steam still cloaked the air. Their skin glowed russet, in glowstone gleam. "Let me love you slowly," he murmured. "Then love me forever," she answered. His kiss deepened, leisurely exploring. Hands roamed curves, mapping familiar territory with new promises. She cupped the back of his neck, tilting to intensify until moans mingled. Consent pulsed silent but clear along the bond. Wolves curled, watching contentedly. They rose, shifting to a pile of plush blankets at room's edge. Water droplets cooled on their bodies. He chased them with lips, forging trails of fire. Carefully, he lowered her to blankets, kneeling beside to press kisses down torso. She threaded fingers through his damp hair, chest rising with quick breaths. He paused at her gaze, waiting. She nodded, pulling him up, reclaiming his mouth with hunger, now fierce. Heat built body to body. When he entered, they both gasped, incompletion becoming whole. Movements synchronized, gentle then urgent, her nails biting his shoulders, his hands braced around her head as if shielding the entire world. The matebond flared, flooding senses with shimmering light. Karis and Astra howled in joined euphoria. Names spilled in reverence. Theron, my heart. Isolde, my forever. Release came like sunrise spilling over mountains. Bright, unstoppable. They held through trembling aftershocks until breaths steadied and the glow dimmed to warm embers. He rolled to his side, gathering her chest to chest. She tucked her head under his chin, tracing lazy circles across his back. That was not slow, she teased breathlessly. "I fear eternity isn't long enough," he murmured. "Forgive my hurry." "On one condition." "Name it." "That you hurry again, many times." His laugh rumbled deep. "Greedy Luna." He kissed her nose. granted. They dozed in the lingering steam until bells chimed 3/4 past noon. Isolde stirred, brushing hair from sweat-damp face. "We should dress." He groaned. "Reality is tyrant." She stood, draping towel, and extended her hand. "But we rule reality." Later, fresh-clothed and glowing, they returned above ground. In the courtyard, Mara demonstrated sword stances for silver-blood pups. Elias assisted, correcting grips, his closeness causing Mara's cheeks to pink. Isolde nudged Theron. "She's teaching. He's hovering. Time to meddle." Theron's grin held mischief. "Watch and learn, my Luna." He strode to the pair. "Elias, perhaps you'd better show them the parry and spin. Mara and I will observe." Mara opened her mouth to protest as Elias flushed, but she raised her wooden practice blade gamely when the pups pleaded to see. After demonstrating, Elias winced at rib pain. Mara hurried to steady him, scolding softly. Isolde whispered to the pups and they scampered off giggling, leaving the two adults alone. Elias apologized. Mara insisted on rewrapping ribs there and then. Their heads bent close, shimmer of tenderness blooming. "Well planted," Isolde told Theron when they rejoined Freya beside training dummies. Freya smirked. "If that seed doesn't sprout, I'll fetch watering can." The late afternoon sun dipped, elongating shadows. Sentries changed shifts. The captured rogues worked under guard, repairing stable fences, grateful for leniency. Children darted around them, unafraid. Peace felt tangible, humming beneath every interaction. Still, as twilight streaked sky with copper, Isolde's earlier worry resurfaced. She found Theron on the wall walk, overseeing torch lighting, his broad shoulders silhouetted. "Something gnaws," he noted, turning. She leaned against the parapet. "Rowan may plot from exile. His sympathizers still whisper. What if this peace crumbles?" He rested his hands over hers, intertwining fingers. "Peace is daily choice. When cracks appear, we fill them. Together." He kissed the pulse at her wrist. "You remind me why blade stays sheathed when words can mend. It frightens me how much I need you. Need is strength when shared." His voice roughened. "I feared relying on anyone. Now I fear not relying on you." Wolf voices echoed agreement. She exhaled tension, letting breeze cool her cheeks. "Then hold me tonight." "Always." A trumpet clamored from outer gatehouse. Messenger, a lithe scout on lathered horse, galloped into courtyard. Theron and Isolde descended stone steps to meet him. The rider bowed. Sighting of 6 rogues near Weeping Birch Ridge. They harassed a truce caravan but fled south. "Casualties?" Theron barked. "None. Cargo intact, but their path skirts the marsh again." Isolde's spine straightened. "They test us still." Theron nodded grimly, sending orders along Mind Link. Ready a 12-wolf pursuit at first star. He turned to her. "I ride." "So do I," she said without hesitation. He searched her eyes, saw unshakable resolve, and acquiesced. Karis murmured pride. Astra nipped playful encouragement. Nightfall's hooves beat cadence along lantern-lit trail as stars pricked velvet. Trackers led by Freya fanned with practiced silence. Isolde rode close enough to sense Theron's energy, an electric coil ready, yet brutal calm. Weeping Birch Ridge rose stark in moonlight, pale trunks dripping lycan like sorrowful beards. They dismounted, proceeding on foot. A lone torch bobbed ahead, rogues rummaging through satchels they'd seized earlier. Isolde counted 5 shapes, the 6th perched lookout in a birch fork. Theron signaled, splitting their force. Isolde and Freya crept left, bows drawn. Elias and 2 spearmen flanked right. Theron advanced center. A snapping twig alerted the lookout. He hissed, but arrows sang. Freya's shaft pinned cloak to tree bark. Isolde's arrow thudded into the ground inches from another rogue's boots. Panic flared. 2 brandished knives, 1 bolted. Theron stepped into clearing, sword leveled. "Drop weapons, no blood need spill." Fear warred with pride. One lunged. Spearman's haft parried. Elias knocked him flat. The runner nearly escaped, but Isolde sprinted, Astra lending speed. She tackled, twisting his wrist until knife clanged. He whimpered, eyes wide. "We're only hungry." She hauled him upright. "Hunger ends at the keep's kitchens, not raiding caravans." Within minutes, all 6 were bound. One limper coughed, explaining they'd fled Rowan, but feared Shadowfang retribution. Theron's gaze softened. "Serve instead of steal. Build rather than burn. You'll be fed and free, if you earn trust." Hope flickered in their eyes. The trackers escorted them toward camp. Isolde pressed warm hand to Theron's. "You lead with mercy again." "Because you stand beside me." His gaze smoldered with affection and exhaustion. "Let's end tonight by dawn." They paused at ridge crest while soldiers guided prisoners ahead. Moon gleamed off the lake and keep towers rose like silver spears. In the hush, he wrapped arms around her from behind, resting chin on her head. "Look," she whispered, "our territories, one horizon. Bound by our hearts." He inhaled her scent, cedar mixing lilac. "Thank you for choosing me, for reminding me war isn't only swords." She turned, brushing lips soft across his. "You taught me trust could grow again." They remained locked in soft kiss until rosy threads of dawn laced east. Wolves within sang quiet hymn greeting sun. Karis nuzzled Astra. "We guard them." She responded, "Always." Theron and Isolde mounted for final ride home, hands brushing reins, hope riding shotgun in every breath. Behind them, morning mist swallowed footprints. Ahead, golden light painted a path into future forged, not of iron and rage, but of love, tempered in moonfire. Silvery dawn slipped between the curtains and fluttered over the furs like a shy bird before settling on Isolde's cheek. The warmth coaxed her from sleep, into that fragile moment when dreams still clung, and the waking world had not yet dimmed their colors. Her first thought was not of duty or danger, but of the body curved protectively around hers, the slow, steady breathing that matched the rhythm of her own heart. She lay still, savoring the sensation of Theron's arm across her waist, his fingers resting lightly against her stomach as if afraid she might vanish between one heartbeat and the next. Astra stirred inside her mind, stretching luxuriously. "Morning greets you, little moon." All is quiet. Isolde smiled, shifting just enough to look up at the man who for so long had been her enemy, and was now the anchor of her soul. Soft lines of sleep eased the severity of his face. The faint scar near his temple caught a hint of dawn light, turning it into a silver crescent. She reached up and gently traced that scar, marveling at how far they had traveled, from bloodied fields to this hush of shared breath. A deep, contented rumble vibrated through Theron's chest. "I wondered how long you'd watch before kissing me awake," he murmured, voice husky with sleep. She felt her cheeks warm. "I was memorizing you, just in case." "In case of what?" He opened his eyes, amber glowing softly. He lifted his hand and brushed a lock of hair from her forehead. "You're not losing me between dusk and dawn." "Habit, maybe," she confessed, "and fear has a long reach even into dreams." He shifted onto his elbow so their gazes aligned, thumb stroking her cheek. "I'll chase the last of it away." Leaning in, he pressed a lingering kiss to her forehead, then another at the tip of her nose, then finally, her lips. The kiss was warm, unhurried, an affirmation of safety that seeped bone deep. When he drew back, she rested her palm against his jaw, enjoying the rasp of early stubble. "I love you," she whispered, testing the words yet again and finding they fit so comfortably they might have been stitched into her skin at birth. A slow smile curved his lips. "I will never tire of hearing that." He brushed a strand of hair from her neck and let his fingertips lightly follow the line of her throat. "I love you, Isolde Ravencrest. All of you. The fragile, the fierce, The stubborn. Mostly the stubborn, she teased, sliding her hand down to rest over his heart. The steady beat echoed through her palm, a constant drum, promising she would never be alone again. Karis brushed against her thoughts, offering a lazy yawn and a canine grin. Astra replied with a playful flick of her tail. Theron tugged the blankets closer. I could keep you here all morning. He nuzzled her ear. The pack can manage without us for one sunrise. Tempting, she admitted, letting her leg tangle with his beneath the covers. But I promised Mara and Freya I'd help finalize the celebration plans. Your first official Luna event. He sounded torn between pride and possessiveness. Will it involve still damp flower garlands? Because last time, pollen ended up everywhere, she finished with a laugh. Freya swears she picked hypoallergenic blooms this time. He chuckled, then sobered. We should get ready. Just a moment more. She tucked herself under his chin, listened to the slow thunder of his heart until it synced with hers, then pushed herself upright. The early light cast golden streaks across the chamber, glimmering over the carved wolf heads that formed the bedposts. She slid from the blankets, reaching for her robe. Before she could secure the sash, Theron came up behind her and pressed a soft kiss to the curve of her shoulder. Mine, he murmured, voice reverent rather than possessive. Ours, she corrected, turning for one last kiss. Then she swatted his chest lightly. Get dressed, Alpha Blackwell, before your council storms the door. He laughed low in his throat and reached for trousers. They moved around the room in a practiced dance, she washing her face in a basin of rose water while he tightened the laces on his shirt. She caught his reflection in the polished copper mirror and felt a glow of pride at the sight. Strong shoulders, confident stance, but eyes softened by something only she could evoke. Minutes later, they stepped into the corridor. 2 sentries saluted smartly. Isolde dipped her head in greeting, still unused to the quick flicker of warmth she now received even from the gruffest warriors. News of yesterday's peaceful surrender had traveled fast, and it colored the air with cautious optimism. At the foot of the stairs, Mara and Freya waited, both wearing expressions of mock impatience. Freya planted fists on her hips the moment Isolde came into view. Finally awake, sleeping beauty. Mara elbowed her friend gently. We're glad you rested, Isolde. You'll need energy for the day. Freya's green eyes sparkled with mischief. Yes, we wouldn't want you nodding off during the speech about number of lanterns per archway. She thrust a parchment roll toward Isolde. Look. Lists. My personal nightmare. Isolde accepted the roll, suppressing laughter. I promise not to bore you, but the lantern count matters. We can't have the western courtyard half dark. Theron cleared his throat, a smirk twitching his lips. I trust your judgment, Luna. Mara shifted a stack of bolts of fabric. We're choosing banners and table runners after breakfast. Oh, and the dessert arrangement. Freya insists on miniature berry tarts. Essential, Freya said solemnly. Tarts are the cornerstone of diplomacy. She winked at Isolde. Besides, you'll want something sweet when your mate isn't within kissing distance. Isolde felt heat rise in her cheeks. Freya! Theron feigned shock. I believe I can be on hand at dessert time. His amber eyes twinkled before he addressed Isolde more softly. I have a quick matter with Elias first. Meet me in the orchard after you've conquered lanterns and tarts. He brushed a kiss across her knuckles in farewell and strode down the hall, cloak swaying. Freya watched him go, sighing theatrically. The way he looks at you, if I didn't love you, I'd be jealous. Mara rolled her eyes good-naturedly. Enough teasing. Let's feed our Luna before she faints. They made their way to the small solar where breakfast had been laid out. Oatcakes dripping with honey, sliced apples dusted with cinnamon, and warm cider. Over the meal, they unrolled plans, inked notes, and argued amicably about flower placement. Freya's sarcasm kept the mood light. Mara's calm ensured progress. At one point, Mara set her quill down and fixed Isolde with thoughtful eyes. You seem radiant. Isolde ducked her head. I'm happy. The admission trembled, part wonder, part relief. It feels strange to say it aloud, but yes, deeply happy. Freya nudged her foot under the table. No shame. Say it again. I'm happy, Isolde repeated, smiling wider. And in love, Freya added, grinning when Isolde's flush deepened. Mara's gentle laughter joined hers. Love suits you, and it suits our alpha as well. She picked up the swatch of moon blue silk. When he looks at you, it's as though the moon flowers in his chest. Isolde clasped her hands together, warmth blooming behind her ribs. I only hope we can maintain this peace. We will, Mara said firmly. Then, voice dropping, she added, especially with help from steadfast betas. Freya's grin sharpened. You mean Elias? She sing-songed. Mara and Elias, sitting in a tree. Mara swatted her arm but couldn't suppress her blush. I merely admire his dedication. And his shoulders, Freya muttered, earning another smack. Isolde laughed so hard honey dribbled down her wrist. It was at that moment Theron returned, boots echoing. He carried something behind his back and paused outside the doorway, evidently having heard the last exchange. Should I be concerned about my beta's shoulders? Freya straightened, unrepentant. Purely professional admiration, Alpha. Mara looked mortified until Elias appeared behind Theron, brow raised at the accusation. She quickly busied herself with stacking plates. Isolde wiped honey from her wrist, standing as Theron approached. He revealed the bouquet, a cluster of moonflowers, petals luminescent white with faint lavender edges, their scent delicate and sweet. For you, he said softly, extending the blooms. Isolde took them, eyes stinging. They only bloom at night. I picked them before dawn, he said. Figured they should greet the sun with you. He leaned close, whispering, I heard you love me. Oh gods, she whispered back, cheeks flaming. Freya's fault. I'm grateful to her. He brushed a kiss to her cheek. Karis hummed happily. Astra's approving chirp echoed through her mind. Freya cleared her throat loudly. I accept gratitude in the form of extra berry tarts. Theron smiled. Done. He glanced at Elias, whose gaze lingered on Mara as she adjusted a stack of linens. Beta, escort our healer to the storeroom for extra lantern oil. That shelf is heavy. Elias blinked, catching the hint. Of course, Alpha. He offered Mara his arm. She hesitated only a moment before slipping her hand into the crook of his elbow. They exited, conversation muted but warm. Freya watched them vanish. That was subtle. She tossed Isolde a wink. You two play matchmakers now? The world needs more love, Theron said simply. His hand slid around Isolde's waist. And I need to borrow my Luna. Freya saluted. Go. I'll finalize dessert tiers in your absence. She pulled the scroll back to her and began sketching pastry plates with exaggerated seriousness. Theron guided Isolde through archways buzzing with festive preparation until they reached the orchard. Sunlight slanted between boughs, glinting off ripening apples. A gentle breeze stirred petals that drifted down like scented snowflakes. He led her beneath a spreading pear tree where a stone bench waited. She set the moonflowers on the seat, inhaling their fragrance, then turned to him. You overheard. I did. He cupped her cheek. And I wanted to give back your words in my own way. She stepped into his arms, resting her head against his chest. Every time I think my heart can't hold more joy, you prove me wrong. Then prepare for one more surprise. He tilted her face up and kissed her, slow and tender. Astra coiled contentment through her veins. Karis growled softly, pleased. When the kiss parted, he took her hands. After the celebration, I wish to show you someplace special. A grove my mother loved. I'd be honored, she said, fingers squeezing his. They spent another hour strolling the orchard while final details flurried elsewhere. Occasionally a servant or guard passed and offered a respectful bow. Isolde felt reality settle. She was Luna, beloved, responsible, and completely content. Theron paused under the arch leading back to the courtyard, brushing a last kiss on her forehead. "I'll meet you at sunset by the eastern fountain." He released her reluctantly as a lieutenant called for him. She watched him depart, heart trailing after him. With flowers in hand, she returned to the great hall to oversee decorations, steps light as if the earth sang underfoot. Isolde spent the early afternoon darting from one courtyard to another. Moonflowers tucked into a crystal vase she'd placed on the head table as a silent promise to return to Theron's side at nightfall. Freya flitted alongside, arms full of parchment and twine, making wry remarks about lantern geometry while directing warriors to hoist strings of tiny silver bells. Whenever Isolde paused to catch her breath, warm hands pressed mugs of water into hers, and she would glance up expecting a servant only to find a tall silver-blood elder smiling shyly, or a Shadowfang hunter nodding in silent gratitude. The mingled scent of pine pitch and rose petals filled the air. Even the old stones of the keep seemed to gleam with a newfound contentment. When the sun slid past its zenith, Mara caught Isolde by the elbow. "I promised your mate I'd steal you for half an hour," she said, eyes bright. "He left instructions." "Instructions?" Isolde laughed, following the healer through the shaded cloister. "Always so thorough." Mara led her to the infirmary's rear chamber where the scent of crushed herbs and beeswax candles lay heavy. Elias sat on a wooden bench, tunic loose, exposing bandages across his ribs. He attempted to rise at Isolde's entrance, but Mara pressed him back with a firm hand. "Stay still, stubborn wolf." She unrolled fresh linen and scissors while Elias's ears flushed crimson. Isolde folded her arms, amusement sparking. "I see my beta has trouble following healer orders." Elias cleared his throat. "Your beta was ambushed by one very determined medicinal poultice." Isolde raised a brow. "The poultice hasn't even been applied yet." Mara produced a small pot of salve, meeting Elias's gaze with a gentle smile. "Stop talking and breathe." She peeled away the old bandage and dabbed salve along the bruises. Elias's eyes flicked to hers, holding just long enough for Isolde to see warmth kindle between them. The healer's cheeks pinked and she busied herself with wrapping clean linen, hands deft. "You're a patient, Isolde observed, voice lightly teasing. "He's learning humility," Mara said. "Slowly." Elias managed a crooked grin. "I learn best with a good teacher." His hand grazed Mara's wrist when she tied the final knot, a brush so brief it might have been accidental, but Mara drew a sharp breath before packing away the salve. Isolde's heart glowed. She sensed Astra's approving rumble, and Karis's silent grin echoed through the bond. Love seeds grow swift in fertile hearts. When Mara finished, Elias murmured thanks. She offered him a water skin, fingers lingering as he drank. Isolde excused herself, leaving them bathed in soft infirmary light. Outside, warmth pooled across flagstones. She paused to watch a pair of silverblood pups chase a Shadowfang hound, their laughter trilling through arches once echoing only war cries. Peace was fragile, yet beautiful. A hushed footstep drew her attention. Theron beckoned from the archway, dressed in a loose linen shirt of deep charcoal and trousers tucked into soft boots. He extended his hand. "Ready to slip away?" "With every fiber," she replied, sliding her fingers into his. The simple act shot sparks to her heart. He led her through a seldom-used gate into forest so dense the world hushed at their passing. Sunlight dappled moss, and the scent of cedar rose like an old hymn. After a quiet hike, they reached a glade encircled by ancient oaks. A stone column, half crumbled and laced with ivy, stood watch over a small spring that bubbled crystal water into a silver pool. Wild lilies floated on the surface, their white petals trembling. Wind stirred leafy branches and whispered secrets older than memory. Theron stopped at the edge, shoulders softening. "My mother called this the Heart's Grove," he said. "She brought me here when the world felt heavy." He knelt, brushing fingers over moss-soft ground. I haven't returned since her passing. Isolde's chest tightened. She knelt beside him, slipping her hand into his. Thank you for sharing it now. He squeezed her fingers. I was afraid it would hurt to return, but it feels right, because you're here. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Tell me about her. He described a woman with laughter like chimes who taught him to sketch constellations on parchment under summer nights, who brewed cedar tea for nightmares. As he spoke, his voice wavered. The fever took her so fast I never had time to say goodbye. I thought if I loved again, fate would tear it away. Isolde turned, framing his face with her palms. Fate can be cruel, but it can also bless. We've both lost pieces of ourselves. Together, maybe we can be whole. Tears glossed his eyes but did not fall. He kissed her palms, breathing in her scent. Promise me we grow old enough to tell our pups these stories. I promise, and she whispered. Wind lifted strands of her hair. He tucked them behind her ear, eyes shining with fierce tenderness. She rose, drawing him up by his hands, and lifted onto her toes to press a kiss at the corner of his mouth. The kiss deepened, soft at first, slow and exploring. His hands slid around her waist, hers threaded into his hair. When they parted, their foreheads touched, breaths mingling. Karis rumbled approval, tail thumping invisible ground. Astra brushed her mate's muzzle lovingly. The moment brimmed with certainty. They could face storms so long as their hearts remained tethered. They lingered in the grove until shadows lengthened. On returning, they found the keep transformed. Garlands of moonflowers looped along stone balustrades, silver lamps ready for dusk, trestle tables loaded with venison, honey-glazed roots, and berry tarts stacked like miniature towers. Music drifted, lute strings warming up. Wolves of both packs donned trimmed coats and bright sashes. Freya intercepted Isolde, thrusting a goblet of spiced mead into her hand. Taste test, she said. I made them add extra cinnamon. Isolde sipped, the spice bloomed over her tongue. Perfect. Lucius emerged, cane tapping. He wore a deep blue cloak lined with white fur, though he still favored his ribs. Pride lifted his posture. He clasped Theron's forearm in a warrior's greeting, then drew Isolde into a one-armed embrace. You look radiant, daughter. Thanks to peace and him, she said softly. Lucius met Theron's gaze. You guard her heart well. With my life, Theron vowed. Dusk fell, lanterns sparked to life. Wolves filled the main courtyard until it pulsed like a living starfield. Music unfurled, mingling with echoes of laughter. Elder Helios drifted along the perimeter, staff tapping to the rhythm. Isolde joined Mara near the dessert table. Nearby, Elias accepted a tart from the healer, their fingers brushing in a spark of promise. Theron's voice rang across the gathering, strong yet warm. Wolves of Shadowfang, Silverblood, and those who walk newly between. Tonight we celebrate not the end of war, but the beginning of something greater. Unity, forged by hearts unwilling to surrender to hate. He extended a hand toward Isolde. And by love. Applause burst like wings beating the night. Lucius stepped forward. As former Alpha of Silverblood, I welcome Theron Blackwell not only as my daughter's mate, but as brother in spirit. May this alliance stand against any who threaten it. Cheering rose, cups lifted. Isolde's heart swelled until tears pressed her eyes. Theron bowed to Lucius, then returned to her, bowing with exaggerated grace. Dance with me, little moon? She curtsied, Freya's earlier lessons paying off, and placed her hand in his. Music shifted to a slow, lilting melody. They moved into the circle, bodies drawing close. Lantern glow flickered across their joined hands. His palm pressed warmly at her waist. Her other hand rested on his shoulder. They swayed, heartbeats sinking. You shine, he murmured, brushing his nose against hers. Every wolf sees it. I only reflect your light, she whispered back. They spun, skirts and cloaks whispering. Around them, other couples joined, Silverblood healer with Shadowfang scout. Two elder warriors, once enemies, now sharing hesitant steps. Even Mara allowed Elias to lead her. Freya partnered a shy Silverblood archer, twirling him until he laughed. When the song ended, Theron dipped Isolde in a playful swoop, laughter dancing in his eyes. Cheers erupted. He pulled her upright, breath warm against her ear. Ready to disappear? Her answering smile held anticipation. He signaled Freya, who winked and shooed them away. Also unnoticed, Mara slipped her arm into Elias's, guiding him toward the garden's quieter shadows. Theron led Isolde along a torchlit path beyond the orchard to the lake's northern bank. There, willow branches framed a secluded nook where he'd spread thick rugs and scattered cushions. Low candles floated upon the water, their reflections trembling like fallen stars. Night's canopy stretched endless overhead, waxing moon high and silver. Isolde pressed a hand to her chest. "This is beautiful. For you." He drew her to a blanket, lowering beside her. A bottle of chilled elderflower wine waited. He poured 2 glasses. They clinked gently. They spoke in hushed voices, of pups yet unnamed, of border villages to rebuild, of festival games Silverblood and Shadowfang children would soon share. Each word stitched another thread between hearts. The wine warmed her, but it was his gaze, liquid amber filled with wonder, that loosened something deeper. He set aside his glass, tracing a moonflower petal that had drifted into her hair. "You outshine every star." Heat flushed her cheeks. She touched his jaw, thumb stroking. "I feel them envy me." He leaned in, lips brushing hers softly. She melted under the whisper kiss, sliding fingers into his hair. The kiss deepened, lazy draw of lips, a teasing caress of tongue. Her heart pounded, desire thrummed. Kyrus's delighted growl echoed, prompting Astra's purring hum. Consent shimmered between them like heat lightning. She angled closer. Theron eased her down onto cushions, never breaking the kiss. Candles painted soft gold along his cheekbones as he hovered above, gaze asking. She nodded, pulling loose the clasp of his cloak. Fabric slipped away, revealing a cotton shirt unlaced at the throat. She traced the exposed skin, felt his pulse leap. He tugged gently at the ribbon fastening her dress, loosening until silk pooled at her waist. The cool night air raised gooseflesh. His warm palms soothed each shiver. He kissed a path from collarbone to the scar that once symbolized pain and now gleamed as proof of their destiny. At the first brush of his lips against that crescent, pleasure rippled through her, and Astra sighed, joyful satisfaction. "Perfect," he whispered against her skin. "My perfect moon." She tangled her legs with his, rolling until she straddled him, the soft wool of his trousers rough against bare thighs. The shift drew a guttural sound from his chest. Her hands flattened over his shirt, pushing it up to reveal the expanse of his torso. Scars crossed muscle like pale constellations. She kissed each, naming hopes: joy, courage, peace. He trembled under her devotion. His hands cupped her hips, thumbs stroked circles, urging but patient. She rocked forward, testing friction, and fire licked across nerves. His breath caught, eyes darkened. She smiled, lowering to kiss him deeply, tasting wine, pine, and the promise of forever. When she rose to shed their remaining clothes, Karis sent a playful bark. "Make him howl." Astra flicked her tail in wicked agreement. Heat seized her belly. She lowered again, sliding against him until their bodies aligned. He gripped her thighs, gaze searching beneath heavy lids. "Now?" he asked, voice ragged. "Yes." Her answer was a gift, a vow. She guided him into her, gasping as fullness bloomed. Stars spun overhead, candles quivered. He thrust once, twice, slow, reverent. She rode the movement, palms on his chest, feeling his heart hammer. The world narrowed to skin-breath bond, pleasure built in slow waves, each crest higher. He sat up, wrapping arms around her back, mouth seeking hers. She pressed her forehead to his, panting, "Theron, gods." "I feel," he ground out, breath hot. "Everything. Because of you." "Yes," she whispered, lifting, sliding down again until heat coiled tight. She bit his shoulder, tasting salt. Their pace quickened, wordless duet. Karis and Astra's minds braided, howling ecstasy as the matebond blazed incandescent. When climax tore through them, she cried out, his name a prayer. He answered with hers, voice breaking. Energy cascaded like starlight pouring into flesh. They clung until tremors ebbed. Afterward, she collapsed against him. He eased them onto their sides, drawing a blanket over flushed skin. Their legs remained intertwined. His fingers traced lazy patterns on her back. For a time, they simply breathed. Crickets resumed their serenade. Candle flames guttered low. Astra curled content beside Karis, their shared heartbeat a lullaby. Isolde lifted her head, brushing errant hair from his brow. "I love you," she whispered again, voice hoarse with wonder. He smiled, eyes soft. "Forever, little moon." Moonlight lingered on their skin long after the candles guttered out, painting them in pale silver where the blanket slipped from shoulders. Isolde lay tracing idle shapes over Theron's chest, luxuriating in the heavy hush that follows two hearts beating each other's names. Every so often she lifted her gaze to admire the soft curve of his lips, the impossible gentleness in a warrior's eyes when he looked at her. The notion that this night could end felt almost painful. Astra flicked her tail in contentment. "We should soak in this peace while it lasts, little moon. Shadows do not slumber long." Karis offered a patient rumble. "But they cower when daybreak finds us united." Isolde sighed, letting the wolf's confidence warm her. Still, a corner of her heart clutched at uneasy thoughts. She slid her hand downward to rest over Theron's heartbeat. His fingers covered hers, sensing the shift even before her breath changed. He pressed a kiss to her hair. "What weight have you picked up, my love?" She hesitated, turning until they lay face to face. "Rowan's echoes. We keep discovering rogues ready to test our walls. What if one day they bring more than a handful of knives? What if they strike when you're far afield and I am here alone?" The words spilled, soft and swift. "I trust our strength, but I know loss, Theron. I know how quickly safety can crack." His brow furrowed, not in frustration but in empathy. He hooked a finger beneath her chin, lifting gently. "Look at me." Amber eyes glowed steady. "Love doesn't erase danger. It gives us a reason to stand taller. You and I, together, are a wall no coward with borrowed hate can breach." She managed a small smile. "I hear you, the fear just flickers. Then we douse it." He shifted, reaching over to retrieve her circlet where it lay beside folded clothes. He set it upon her brow, fingers brushing hair. "You are Luna, fierce as any blade. I've seen you command battle with a single sentence. If I fall, you lead, and you won't be alone. Freya, Mara, Elias, the whole keep will rise behind you." Emotion thickened her throat. "But I don't want to face a world without you." "Nor I without you," he admitted. "So we fight like hell to make sure neither happens." He pressed their joined hands against his sternum. "Feel this? You set the rhythm. As long as it beats, our bond is shield and sword." Her fingers curled with quiet determination. "Then we'll keep it beating." Karis nudged Astra. Together, steadfast. At length they rose, reluctantly dressing beneath the willow shadows. He held her cloak so she could slip inside, smoothing the fur collar. She straightened his shirt, fastening the top laces. They quenched candle stubs and left the lakeshore, following a moonlit path toward the keep. Crickets hushed as they passed. The night felt reverent, as though aware of vows just whispered beneath its canopy. Closer to the main wall, torches revealed the garden still dotted with lingering revelers. Soft harp notes drifted in the cooling air. Isolde's gaze caught a pair standing near the herb beds. Mara and Elias silhouetted by lamp glow. Mara traced the bandage beneath his shirt collar. Elias leaned in to murmur something that made her blush radiant. Then, as if drawn by tides, they gravitated together. Their first kiss unfurled slow and tentative, but quickly deepened into a quiet promise. Isolde squeezed Theron's hand, happiness bubbling. Another spark catching, he murmured. Mara deserves joy. She whispered back. He inclined his head. So does Elias, even if he pretends otherwise. They slipped through an archway toward the entry hall, only to find Elder Helios waiting beneath a carved lintel, staff glimmering faint amethyst. His expression bore the solemnity of midnight bells. Isolde lifted her chin. Elder, you missed the dancing? The wind carried sweeter stories. His gaze flicked over their intertwined fingers before turning grave. But it also carried a warning. The rogue tide that Rowan stirred has not receded. It gathers at distant banks. I saw talons scratching at the wired stones, carving a sigil of black water under crescent moon. Theron's hand tightened on Isolde's. Where? North of the border, past the ruined mines. Helios's voice wove like silver smoke. They plan to drown fledgling peace in bitter iron. Soon. Isolde felt a chill despite the cloak. Do we strike first? Helios shook his head. Too many shadows yet. Better to strengthen walls, gather allies. Theron absorbed this, jaw working. Your vision is rarely wrong. We'll call extra scouts and start forging more spears at dawn. The elder nodded, relief shading his features. He touched Isolde's shoulder with unexpected softness. Hearts bound by moon endure longer than steel. Guard each other. Then he drifted away, robe trailing like twilight fog. Isolde turned into Theron's embrace. Plans tomorrow, tonight. Hold me. He pressed a lingering kiss to her forehead. Always. Together they climbed stairs toward their chambers, passing sleeping sentries and dying sconces. Inside, the chamber felt warmer for their arrival, furs drawn back by attentive servants earlier in the night. She lit a single taper, casting amber glow over stone walls. He shrugged off his cloak and turned, catching her around the waist before she could step away. One more moment, he murmured, tipping her face to his. Let the world wait. She melted into him, breath mingling, kiss soft, less hungry than earlier, yet just as powerful. When they parted, she pressed her ear to his chest, listening again to that steadfast drum. I will remember this sound every time doubt creeps in. He guided her to the bed. Then keep it close. Sliding out of tunics and trousers with familiar ease, they slipped beneath furs. No frantic hurry, only slow touches, a trailing fingertip along her spine, her palm resting over his heart. Conversation wandered between kisses. Did you see Mara and Elias? She asked. I did. Let's ensure they have patrols together. He teased, nipping her shoulder. Schemer? She whispered, giggling. To help love bloom is strategic. He protested, feigning innocence. She kissed away the smirk. Their exploration turned languid, a gentle tide rather than crashing surf. He took his time tracing lines of her body, marveling anew at every curve. She reciprocated, pressing open-mouthed kisses over healed bruises. Words became fewer, only sighs, murmured endearments. When at last he eased into her, both gasped softly, as though still surprised by how perfect the joining felt. The rhythm they found was tender, unhurried, as if they sought to imprint every second onto memory's stone. Astra and Carouse lay nose to nose within their minds, tails thumping, radiating quiet joy. Climax came like dawn breaking. Slow brightening, then sudden warmth flooding veins. She tightened around him, whispering his name. He answered with hers, voice smoky with devotion. They clung through shivers, then collapsed side by side, faces turned toward each other in the hush. Sweat cooled, heartbeats gradually steadied. Isolde brushed damp hair from his brow. Helios's omen scares me, but with you, I feel invincible. Theron kissed her knuckles one by one. You make me want to be worthy of invincibility. He fell silent, contemplation flickering across his face. I spent years believing strength meant walls, no softness, no trust. Then you tore 1,000 walls in one night by a lake. His thumb stroked her inner wrist. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness when shared. Her vision blurred with tenderness. And you showed me courage is gentler than anger, that my scars were not shame, but proof of survival. He gathered her close so her head rested on his shoulder. Whatever shadow looms, we face it together. She slid her leg over his, cocooning herself in his warmth. Together. Candles dwindled to a glow. Outside, distant owls called across moon-washed rooftops. Somewhere a newborn pup yipped in sleep, answered by a mother's soft croon. Isolde felt the keep breathing, each soul tucked safe inside its walls. Safe because love had been brave enough to risk itself. Karis spoke, voice a deep rumble. The pack thrives when heart leads fang. Astra answered, amber eyes glowing in the shared mindscape. Our hearts beat as one. Theron traced light circles on her arm until her eyelids drooped. As drowsiness overcame her, she heard him whisper, Sleep, little moon. Tomorrow, we guard our dawn. She smiled, twining fingers with his. And every dawn after. He pressed one final kiss to her temple. My forever. Furs rustled as they settled, half entwined. Quiet fell, thick and sweet. The taper sputtered out, letting darkness cradle them. Beyond the window, a meteor streaked the sky, stitching a moment's flame across the tapestry of stars before vanishing, like a promise sealed in distant light. And inside the room, 2 steady heartbeats answered, already dreaming of battles won together, and children who would learn under twin moons what strength truly meant.